What if Bella left Edward forever? I know she still loves me, but I don't think she likes me anymore. I know she still loves me, George Strait. As I lay here alone once again, I can't help but allow my mind to drift down the path I have been trying to avoid for 3 months now. How much I love her, miss her, and what a stupid ass I've been, even though my pride has not allowed me to admit it. But also, how the fuck we ended up in this mess in the first place. Everything had started out so perfect in the beginning, as it usually does. We didn't have much, but we were still under the deluded belief that love would be enough. Then the debt started to pile up: school loans, cars, bills, and then, on top of it all, she wanted a baby, and I didn't. At least, not until we were more stable, I told her. We both began working more, trying to get ahead, and it seems like, in that process, we started to grow apart. But she was still beside me every night, whether I came home on time at 5, or crept in silently at 3 in the morning, so everything seemed fine. Our bills slowly got paid off, we bought our first, small house together, and then the baby issue rose again. I came up with every reason I could think of to avoid it. I was never home, and it wouldn't be fair to her or the kid. Our neighborhood wasn't the best place to raise our family, our house was too small, you name it. I tried it. Soon enough, we were fighting all the time, and if you ask me now what even half of them consisted of, I most likely won't be able to tell you. And now, I find that it doesn't matter at all. We reside under the same roof, but we've been living separate lives, her in the master bedroom, and me on the couch. But it only took one statement from her tonight in the middle of one of our arguments to set my world off axis. Edward, I think it's time we just face the music and get a divorce. I can't do this anymore, and we are both wasting our lives together because we will never want the same things, she said with tears in her eyes and shaking her head. You want a divorce because I won't give you a baby, like we are in any state to have a baby right now, I retorted in disbelief. Exactly, we're not and we never will be. What are we honestly still doing together? She asked, her lip trembling. I thought we were together because we loved each other, but obviously, I was mistaken, I snapped bitterly. She drew in a deep breath with her eyes closed, and when they opened again, there was a new sad, yet determined look in them. Edward, I love you, but you won't go to marriage counseling with me. You've made it very clear that you do not want to be a father, and that means that I have to sacrifice something I want so much, it hurts. I want to be a mother, and I would love to be one to your children, but I can't have that. I've been working at a job I hate for 7 years while you've built up your career. I have taken a back seat to everything you wanted. You don't want a divorce, but tell me something, Edward. When is this marriage going to be about what both of us want, and not just you? To that, I had no reply. She wasn't entirely wrong about any of it. Nothing she had ever wanted in the 7 years of our marriage had come to fruition. Aside from having a baby, she never got to go back to school or live outside the city as she'd wanted, and she had pleaded with me to go to marriage counseling with her, and I wouldn't. I refused to admit that our marriage was in that much trouble, and whatever problems we were having, I didn't want to share with a third party. I'm going to the courthouse tomorrow, and I'm going to file, she said softly, the first tear slipping down her cheek. You can stay, I'll move out. Otherwise, the house is going to need to be sold because I can't afford it. I don't want anything. I just really think it's best that we cut our losses before we hurt each other anymore. I had watched her walk back upstairs, my heart pounding and my throat tight, collapsing back onto the couch in shock. My wife is going to file for a divorce. She is leaving me for good. Even though I can still hear her upstairs, she is already gone. It's been 2 hours and I can't sleep, finding it hard to even breathe. I don't want to lose her. Bella is my life, my entire world, my everything. How could I have let things get this far? And for what? Petty fear? I rise from the couch and make my way upstairs, standing outside the bedroom we used to share, and I hear nothing from inside. I push the door open and find the room completely dark except for the sliver of light from the bathroom, slicing a line through the center of our bed like a divider. My wife lays to one side of it, staring up at the ceiling, while the other remains cold and empty, as it has been for so long now, a visible representation of the space that has come between us. I brace my hands on either side of the doorframe, pinching my eyes closed as I feel my heart shattering all over again. Please don't leave me, Bella, I whisper in a voice I can barely recognize, lifting my head to gaze across the room at her through blurred vision. Bella's eyes close, but she remains otherwise still, and my grip tightens on the wood and my breaths become more difficult to take. She is resolved, shutting me out. Our marriage is over. Everything I have ever wanted, she is taking away, since it all resides in her. I don't know what else you want me to do, Edward. My heart can only break so many times before there is no putting it back together again. I slide down the door frame until I settle onto the floor, staring at the other side. Do you really still love me? That was never in question, she replies softly, the first hint of emotion crackling her voice. I love you so much, it's actually killing me inside. But what are either of us getting out of this marriage right now other than pain? I clasp my hands behind my neck with my elbows resting on my knees. I'll do anything, Bella. I'll go to marriage counseling. We can have a baby, anything you want. Please, just don't say it's over. I love you so much. I'm begging you, please. I hear the movement of the blanket, but for some reason, I can't bring myself to glance over at her, probably because I don't think I can bear seeing that look on her face again, telling me that I've lost her. Edward, a baby is the last thing I want right now. It's not the answer to our problems. If that's all that mattered to me, I would have left you years ago. I finally turn my head toward Bella to find her sitting on the side of the bed, the trail of tears streaming down her face glistening on her skin in the dim light from the hall. Her fingers are clenched on the edge of the mattress, and her lips are pressed into a thin line. What do you want? My voice is soft in a gentle request. I'm willing to do anything to save my marriage, but her expression doesn't change. I want the man I fell in love with, the Edward that wouldn't have waited until I had a foot out the door already, so to speak, before he told me that he loved me and thought our marriage was worth fighting for. I want to go back 3 months to when I first asked you to go to counseling with me, and have you say yes, to show me that we meant that much to you then. Not as a last resort because I've asked for a divorce, and for you to want our baby because you want to start a family with me, instead of just giving me what you think will save our marriage. But all of these things are impossible. I shake my head and rise from the floor, walking over to her and kneeling at her feet. Baby, I'm right here, and I've always loved you. I meant every vow I made to you the day we got married, and that's never changed. I'm sorry it's taken me so long, but please, give me one more chance. Then talk to me and stop shutting me out, Bella replies with a sob, but still held my eyes. I didn't get married to live alone like this, even with you here. And I won't stay if it's going to remain this way. I want a life with you, not an obligation you feel the need to hold up your end of. I'm not asking you to beg me to stay. I need you to tell me why I should. I love you, Bella. You're everything to me. I'm more sorry than you'll ever know that I've made you so unhappy, I tell her, reaching my hand up to her cheek, but she turns her face away from me. Baby, please tell me what I need to do. I can't tell you that. There's no step-by-step manual on how to fix a broken marriage, Bella whispers, shaking her head, and I feel my heart plummet with the word broken. It sounded so final. I've never doubted that you love me, Edward, even when you didn't say or show it. But somehow, we still ended up right here. I lower my head, barely an inch away from resting on her knees. She's never pulled away from my touch like that, or ever sounded so defeated when she's spoken to me, and that scares the hell out of me. Will you please go to counseling with me? I know I have no right to ask that after refusing you so many times. If it doesn't work and you still want to leave me, I'll let you go, but can we please try? I don't want you to let me go, Bella says softly, and I feel her fingers running gently through my hair. It's been so long since I've felt her touch me in any way. I nearly crumble right there, and I allow my head to rest on her lap. But for this to work, you'll have to talk. It's going to take effort on both our parts, or it will be pointless to even go. I nod, sliding my hands over her hips to rest on the small of her back. I will, I promise. And complete honesty, no matter the topic, and not just what you think I want to hear, she continues, and I nod again, holding around her waist even tighter. Okay, I'll make the call. But while we're doing this, it will probably be best if we continue to sleep separately. We need to build up from the foundation again, and it might confuse things otherwise. If you want, you can take the bed. I know the couch has been bothering your legs and back lately. I close my eyes and sigh. I know she's probably right, no matter how much I want to be beside her at the moment, but there is no way I'm making her sleep on the couch. I broke us, not her. No, Bella, I'll be fine, thank you. I lift my head to look at her, taking her free hand and kissing her knuckles. Again, she doesn't pull away and meets my eyes instead. Let's get some sleep. I'll make the call in the morning before I go to work. I nod and rise from the floor, still holding her hand. Are there any other rules to this? Like what? She asks, gazing up at me questioningly. I squeeze her fingers gently and take a deep breath. Can I tell you I love you and kiss you goodnight? Bella stands up in front of me, her lips trembling with a nod of her own. Tonight, yes. After that, let's see what the counselor says. Okay, I reply, even though I'd hoped for a slightly different answer. My hands shake as I bring them to cradle her face and lower my lips to hers. Bella's fingers grip my shirt at my sides, releasing a half-whimper, half-choke sob as she returns my kiss, as I feel a tear hit the tip of my nose where it rests on her cheek. I continue holding her face, praying that this won't be the last time I feel her lips against mine, or her touch. I keep kissing her with that terrifying thought in my mind, until we both need to breathe, but even then, I rest my forehead on hers. I love you so much, Bella, I whispered, tracing the pads of my thumbs over her damp cheeks. I love you too, Bella replies just as softly, brushing her lips against mine once more before stepping back from me, and sitting down on the bed again with her eyes lowered. Good night, Edward. I sigh. She won't even look at me. I can only hope I haven't hurt her beyond repair. Good night. With that, I make my way back to the door and look at her one last time before closing it behind me, hearing her cries once again from inside the moment it clicks. Please God, let me fix this. The next 2 weeks pass slowly until we finally have our first appointment scheduled with the counselor. Yet, as I sit here in the chair beside her in the waiting room before our session begins, I am nervous and can't stop my leg from bouncing. Are you sure you want to do this? Bella asks in a soft voice, and I look over to her. She's asked me this question at least a dozen times in the last 14 days, always with that uncertainty in her gaze. Are you? I inquire in reply, and she nods, but her eyes continue to flicker between mine. Then I'm sure. Bella's shoulders relax, and she releases a slow breath, then she stiffens again as our names are called. I want to hold her hand to comfort her somehow, and it tears at my heart to know that I can't be the source of it for her. We walk together down the long hallway, following the woman leading us toward a small corner office at the end with a plaque that reads Juan Molina, Couples Counselor. When it opens, the man stands from his chair to greet us both with a handshake. Edward, Bella, my name is Juan. Please come in and have a seat. Bella crosses the room and settles at the far end of one of the couches, rubbing her palms over her skirt. I sit at the other and lean forward on my knees with my elbows, as he lowers onto the levasseur across from us. I wish I could say that you have nothing to be nervous about and this won't hurt, but obviously, I can't guarantee that. Your body language speaks volumes, as does the fact that you chose the longer couch to sit on. Can you tell me why you did that, Bella? He begins, leaning back and folding his hands around his knee, which is crossed over the other. Bella nervously tucks her hair behind her ear and shrugs. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it, to be honest. His eyes turn to me, and my heart seems to rise into my throat. And Edward, what made you decide to sit way over there, away from your wife? I shift uncomfortably and feel Bella's eyes on me as well. I'm giving her space. We're not as close as we once were, and I've hurt her a lot. I'm the reason we're here in the first place. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, this is the last blame we'll speak of in this room, and I ask that it carries over to outside these walls as well, he says, and we both turn our eyes to him. Laying blame is the easiest thing to do when problems arise in a marriage, and while I admire your willingness to take responsibility, that's never the solution. It's much more difficult to admit to the source. A relationship takes two people to make or break it, either by trying to make it work or by giving up. So, my next question is, are you both willing to move past the blame and work toward the solution? It won't be easy or painless. I'm sure things will be heard and said in this room that might hurt, some more than others, but honest communication is the only answer. Can you both agree to that? Yes, Bella answers immediately, and I close my eyes, feeling relief flood through me at her lack of hesitation. What about you, Edward? He asks after a moment, and I realize I have yet to answer him. Yes. Definitely, yes. Great. Let's get started then. For the next 20 minutes, we talk about how we met, what first attracted us to each other, the foundation, as Bella calls it. For a moment, we are both smiling as she remembers that first day of college when she literally ran into me, knocking our books out of our hands and me onto the ground with them. At the time, I didn't outweigh her by much. I was tall and lanky, and definitely not in an attractive way at all. However, when I looked up from where I had fallen, behind those thick glasses she was pushing back up her nose, and beneath the baggy sweater and cropped brown hair, stood the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my life. Her blush of embarrassment rose on her cheeks as she crouched down to collect her books, profusely apologizing for her clumsiness. To this day, I am positive that was the moment I fell in love with her, and she says it was the same for her. 2 years later, We had moved in together, she'd left college to get a job while I finished my degree, and we were married in a small private ceremony that summer by a justice of the peace. Our families had refused to attend, insisting we were making a terrible mistake. But we had each other, and at the time, that was all that mattered. So, what changed? Juan asks, and we glance at each other briefly before returning our eyes to our laps. I feel my stomach clench inside me as neither of us speak for a moment, and I nearly find myself regretting coming to this place. I know what changed and caused this gap between us. I was, and still am, a coward. Bella wants children. And you do not. He finishes for me and raises his eyebrow in question. When I simply look away, Bella sighs heavily. That isn't our biggest problem. My eyes turn quickly to her, genuinely surprised by her statement. Bella, it always comes back to kids. Because you bring it there, Bella exclaims, looking at me with tears in her eyes. Bella, Juan interjects in a calm voice, and Bella folds her arms around herself. No blame, remember? Why don't we start with what you believe the problem is and talk it through? He won't talk to me, Bella begins, and he gestures to me with his hand, redirecting her attention back to me. There's been nothing but excuses between us for 7 years. Yes, I want children. I want them so much, it hurts, and you know that. But you're not just some walking, talking sperm bank to me. I could mail order that. It's not why I married you. I know that, but anytime we see one of your friends with their kids, you get this look, and then all we do is fight for the rest of the day, I reply in exasperation, driving my hands in my hair. Edward, I wouldn't say a damn thing if you would stop asking and asking and asking me what's wrong. If you know, why do you ask? What, do you want me to alleviate your conscience? Bella asks, waving her arms out. Or maybe I should just pretend those feelings aren't there? What is so wrong with wanting to have a family with my husband? What is so wrong with not wanting that? I retort, clenching my fists tightly on either side of my head. Nothing, but why? If you just didn't like kids, maybe I could understand. But you're great with your brother's kids, Bella said, and my hands fall. Why does there have to be a reason? What does my niece and nephew have to do with the desire to be a father myself? And there you go again, answering every single one of my questions with more of your own, Bella huffs, and leans back roughly into the couch, refusing to look at me as she continued to speak. This is our biggest problem, and exactly what has changed. You keep bottling things up and I can't reach you. We used to be able to talk, even if it was just simple things. Now, I'm lucky if I get a single word from you when you walk in the door, unless we start arguing. I want a husband, not a verbal sparring partner. Edward, let me ask you something. Do you still love your wife? Juan asks, and I stare at him incredulously. Would I be here if I didn't? I snap in a sharp tone, and he looks at me over his glasses, telling me to just answer the question. Of course, I love my wife. What kind of question is that? He ignores my inquiry and looks at my wife. And Bella, do you still love your husband? Bella's lips trembles and a tear falls down her cheek with her nod. Very much. How often do you tell each other that? He asks, and we look at each other briefly. Aside from the night she told me she was leaving me, I am having a difficult time remembering the last time I just told her I loved her for no reason, and vice versa. We both shift uncomfortably in our seats and fold our hands in our laps, looking down to them like two scolded children. And how often do you make love? I cough, clearing my throat and shaking my head. That's between me and my wife. Once a month, if we're lucky, Bella replies, one of her hands rising to the back of her neck, cupping around it. But it's been a while. He's been sleeping on the couch for a few months now. For God's sake, Bella, I groan, my jaw tightening. What? Do you want me to lie to the man and say that we go at it like rabbits in the bedroom, but we just can't bear to be in any other room of the house together for any length of time? Even though who knows when the last time you even touched me was? Bella asks through clenched teeth, and her eyes pinch closed. No, that's private, and not something to discuss with a complete stranger, I reply, my gaze cutting over to her sharply. Well, it's not something you discuss with your wife either. But of course, that's what you want, Bella growls sarcastically, tugging at her hair. And what if I do want to talk about it? That I miss having sex with my husband, that I'm tired of going to bed alone and relying on a vibrator if the need arises because my husband won't fuck me, since oh my god, he might accidentally get me pregnant. You know, because that is the worst possible thing that could ever happen. Bella, can we please just talk about this at home? I say tersely, her bold words making me exceedingly uncomfortable, especially when not in private. I think that is a very good idea, and that will be your homework until our next session, Juan interrupts, setting his pad on the table. For at least an hour every single day, You are both to sit down together somewhere quiet and undisturbed, and just talk. No interruptions, no exceptions. Even turn off your cell phones if you need to. The first step you obviously need to make is reopening the lines of communication between you. One night, Bella chooses the topic and Edward the next, and that is the only thing you discuss that day. And by the end of this next week, I want you to have a general idea of what it is that each of you wants from this marriage. I don't reply, but Bella nods, and we stand to make our way out of the office when he tells us that the time is up for our session. Oh, Bella pauses, turning back to look at him from the door. I meant to ask, I know we shouldn't try to just jump back into bed together, but what about everything else? Should we keep things the way they've been? I mean, are there rules to this? For now, I think that might be wise. Treat this time as if you've just started dating again and are building the intimacy between you. Maybe even go out on a date to dinner or something. It's a good place to start, he replies with a smile. His words anger me, and I storm through the lobby, pushing the door open roughly and stepping outside. I get into my car and wait for Bella, my hands already in a tight grip around the steering wheel. Bella runs out and pulls the passenger door open. What are you doing? We need to make the next appointment. I'm not coming back here. We can fix this ourselves? I growl without looking at her. You are my wife, Bella, not my girlfriend, my wife. I'm not going to play this make-believe game that it's anything different. And I am not discussing our sex life with him like we're talking about the fucking weather. Then maybe this just won't work, Bella replies sadly. Because, like I said in there, you won't talk about it with me either. I roll my neck and shift in my seat, closing my eyes. Just get in the car, Bella, please. I'm making another appointment first. If you decide to join me for it, great. If not, we're over? I ask, turning my eyes to her. Is that the ultimatum you're giving me? Bella breathes in deeply, her hold on the doorframe tightening. I didn't say that. We'll talk about this at home, with another appointment in place first. With that, she pushes the door closed and walks back inside, while I start the engine and prop my elbow on the ledge of the window. My thumb massages my temple as I wait for her to return again. I can't believe that my marriage may actually hang in the balance of divulging the intimate details of it to a stranger. 1 week later, we are seated back on that couch. I'm glad to see you've decided to return, Edward. Juan greets us as he sits down across from us again. Considering how you felt after last time, I wasn't sure. My gaze shifts to Bella again, and I narrow my eyes slightly. You told him? Edward, she didn't say anything. You aren't the first husband to storm out of here as you did last week, especially when the topic of sex is broached. Several wives have, as well. Many feel just as you do, that sex is a private matter in a marriage, he replies, and my body tenses even more. There have even been some that have not returned. This is a positive step. I can't promise that sex will never be a subject of discussion again here, because it will. It is an integral part of a marriage and obviously important to you both. Bella in her desire to mend it, and you in your protectiveness of it. I understand that it's very intimate and personal, and we will take this one step at a time. I lower my head and nod, attempting to dispel the discomfort I feel at the topic, but also feeling guilt swarm over me at my assumption and accusatory tone toward my wife. I'm sorry, Bella. So how did the rest of your week go? Juan asks in a tone way too calm and pleasant, and it sets my nerves on edge. But I know I am just overreacting. Bella glances over to me, gesturing with her hand for me to go first. I sigh, folding my arms over my chest. To be honest, yes, I was really pissed off after the last session, and we fought when we got home. I'm not an idiot. I know things will get personal in here, but I have never discussed my marriage or what I do with my wife in the bedroom with anyone, not even friends, and I haven't been married for 7 years just to start acting like some lovesick teenager again. There was a lot said to that effect. And Bella, how did you feel about that? Juan asks, and I have to resist the urge to roll my eyes at the nearly textbook line of questioning I can foresee from here. I got angry too, Bella answers, and then her voice dips a little more, and she shrugs. And it hurt. We agreed that we would be open and honest here, no matter the topic. It was kinda the whole point of counseling, because we weren't talking anymore, and I started getting discouraged. Sometimes, I want him to be that lovesick teenager over me. I know it's not realistic all the time, but I miss him kissing me for no reason, or wanting me so much that he can't keep his hands off me. Or hell, even taking my hand in public because he saw some guy looking at me, and letting him know she's mine. And she told you this? Juan asks, now turning his attention to me. I nod and look down as he inquires about my reaction. It made me angrier, and I refused to talk about it anymore. She hated that kind of stuff when we were dating. She'd always tell me that she wasn't a damn possession. When it's all the time, sure, but once in a while, it's nice to know that your husband thinks you've still got something for other men to stare at, Bella says, glancing over at me for a moment with a look in her eyes I can't remember ever seeing before, but it was definitely sad. Just because I don't beat you over the head with a club and drag you back to the cave doesn't mean I don't still find you attractive, I reply, dragging my fingers through my hair and gripping it at the back of my head. You're fucking gorgeous, Bella. So, what made you decide to come back? Juan asks curiously, bringing our attention back to him. I take a deep breath and run my palms along my thighs. I love my wife. I really do. And she was right, we really don't talk anymore. I didn't realize how true that was until that moment last week. I completely shut down from her. I just have a lot of trouble saying what I feel at times. I wasn't raised to be overly forthcoming, especially with the intimate details of my life. Everything is very private in my family. I'm not your parents or your brother Edward. I don't want you to hide things from me, Bella says gently, without a single trace of anger. Her voice is soft, and her eyes have saddened more. Edward, do you think you can look at Bella and tell her how you're feeling right now? Juan asks, crossing one leg over the other. No one is here to judge you, and you can say anything you wish. Imagine I'm not here, if you need to. I tense, gripping my knees firmly and my throat tightens, and I see her turn toward me from the corner of my eye. I love you, Bella. Will you look at me, please? Bella asks in a gentle but desperate tone, and I swallow hard, turning my head toward her. Why are you so afraid to talk to me unless we're screaming our heads off at each other? Or I'm about to leave you? Because I just can't bear it anymore? We are family too, Edward, you and me. I want you to trust me. I do trust you, I reply with a furrowed brow. Enough to know that I would never cheat on you, maybe, and yeah, we've talked this week, but it's like pulling teeth to get you to open up to me, even just to tell me how your day was, Bella says, her hand clapping against her denim-clad thigh in frustration. That's not the only kind of trust I want between us. Okay, Bella, take a moment and a deep breath, Juan interjects, holding his hand up to stop her, and then calmly tell Edward how you are feeling right now. Bella blinks back her tears and inhales slowly, closing her eyes as she releases her breath and then looks to me again. I know you love me, and I love you more than I could ever explain in this lifetime. I never want to lose you, but I feel that, in a lot of ways, I already have. I miss my husband, I miss my lover, I miss my friend, and I want to believe that the man I married, who encompassed all those things, is still in there somewhere, and I'm not as alone as I feel sometimes. Bella, I told you, I'm still the same man, I reply, resting my elbow on the back of the couch and pressing my fingertips to my forehead. You didn't trust me enough to tell me how much you hated your job and that you felt it was my fault that you were still there, or that our marriage was in so much trouble that you were ready to file for a divorce. You were sleeping on the couch, Edward, Bella exclaimed, her hand fisting on her thigh. What part of not sharing the same bed with your wife for 3 months did you construe as being normal? My hand runs over my face while Juan intercedes, attempting to diffuse the situation between us. We are pointing fingers again, without realizing we're doing it, or even intending to. I look to my wife and take a deep breath, fighting against everything that has been hammered into me from the moment I was born. In my family, we don't talk about our feelings, it's an admittance of weakness. We are private, we do not show pain or fear, and we definitely do not cry. You don't understand, Bella, I've opened up to you more than any single person in my entire life. I've never begged for anything before, ever. I'm my father's son, and I'm the oldest, and there's nothing I have ever wanted to be less. Bella stares at me in shocked disbelief, completely speechless and barely even appearing to breathe. I've shielded her from everyone in my family but my brother, and never discussed with her at length about my parents. All she knew was that my father was strict and that we didn't get along. After a few moments of silence, Juan leans forward and folds his hands in front of him. Go ahead, Edward. Nothing is forbidden to speak of in here or leaves this room, except with you and Bella. I feel about 5 years old all over again, terrified to speak. Bella seems to sense this and slides closer to me, gently taking my hand. Her thumb ghosts along my skin, and I freeze, shaking my head as I feel bile rising in my throat. My chest tightens, and I'm having difficulty breathing, my guard instinctively going up. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Edward, please, Bella begs me. but I pull my hand away from her hold and stand. "Bella, don't you understand? I can't," I exclaim, and she jumps at the ferocity and volume of my voice. "If that means that you need to leave me, then I guess I will have no choice but to let you go. Edward, baby, please come back." I hear Bella cry out from behind me as I leave the office, thankful that we met here today, since I was running late after work. I can't meet her eyes as she pushes the office door open roughly, but I am already in my car, backing out and speeding out of the parking lot. I need time to clear my head and dispel the near panic attack beginning to course through me, with my father's words screaming at me in my mind as I drive. "You're being weak, Edward. You're allowing your emotions to dictate you. Look where that got your brother. That woman walks all over him, and those children are the most unruly, disrespectful brats I have ever encountered in my life. And you're becoming a disappointment, just like him. Bella is not your friend, she is your wife, and she needs to know her place." And this is exactly why I haven't spoken to my father outside the office in years, and have shielded Bella from him. Yet, as much as I was determined to avoid it, I have become just like him. I can't say when my main priority in life has stopped being my wife and I became married to my work, a job I'd gone to college for a business degree for, though it was the last thing I wanted, all because it was in my father's plan, or when I began treating her the same way he treats my mother. I've destroyed the most incredible thing to happen to me, because I no longer view her as my friend and she's the best one I've ever had. And brats, that is how my father refers to his grandchildren. My phone buzzes in my pocket, breaking me out of my thoughts, and I pull over to the side of the road. I cut the engine and lean back in my seat, knowing it's Bella, but I can't bring myself to answer the call, and I let it go to voicemail. It's a dickish move. I'm sure she's probably worried about me, because that is just how my wife is. Even when we are screaming and pissed at each other, she never loses her concern for me. I just can't let her hear me like this. I finally reach into my pants pocket to retrieve my phone when it vibrates again, and I look to it and see a text from her. "It's been 3 hours. If you don't want to come home right now, that's fine. Just please let me know you're okay." I rest my elbow on the window ledge, my fingertips running along my lips with my phone held tight in the other hand on my lap. I don't deserve her, and as much as I love her, I probably should never have married her, because she doesn't deserve this. She should be married to a man who would appreciate everything she does, and give her the life and all the babies she could ever want. A true partner in life. I lift my phone to stare at her message. Again, I can't let her sit at home, worrying about my sorry ass. "I'm fine. Be home soon." Once I send the text, I lean my head back again and slam my palm against the steering wheel in frustration. I'm not angry with her, but I'm furious with myself. Why is she paying the price for my issues? This is not at all the husband I wanted to be for her when I asked her to marry me and put that ring on her finger. I can see her in my mind pacing the living room floor and praying that I'm not dead in a ditch somewhere, and crying in relief when she receives my short text. What an asshole I am. I start my car again and turn around. It is now pitch dark outside, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, already halfway to Seattle. It will be at least an hour or two before I am back in my driveway, unless I drive like a maniac, which I am half tempted to do. And even though I know she'll probably still be waiting up for me when I return, I decide to take my time in order to collect my thoughts. Part of me knows that I should let her go, let her file for divorce and move on with her life, even though that thought causes such an unbearable ache inside me that it materializes into a crippling, physical pain, and I can barely breathe. I love her too much for her own good. When I finally pull into my driveway, I spot her in the window, holding the curtain aside for a moment before letting it go and disappearing. I blow out a slow breath and am stepping out of my car when the front door swings open, with my beautiful wife standing just inside. Moving up the walk slowly, her face becomes clearer, and I see the evidence of hours' worth of tears in her swollen eyes. I open the outside door and pause in front of her until a sob escapes her chest and she closes the distance between us, wrapping her arms tightly around my shoulders. I embrace her waist firmly, holding her as we move together inside the house and kicking the door closed behind us. "God, you scared the shit out of me," she cries against my chest, her hand clutching the fabric of my shirt at my back as her hold secures around me more. "I'm sorry. I just had a lot of thinking to do," I mumble into her hair, and she pulls her head back to look at me questioningly. "And I really think you should leave me." Bella's eyes tear more as she removes her arms from me, stepping back and shaking her head. "You don't mean that." I do, Bella. I can't be the man you need, I reply, moving past her and walking into the living room. I sit down on the couch roughly, and she remains in the doorway, staring at me in disbelief. You love this house, so you stay. I'll make the payments on it. I'm not going to make you suffer any more than you already have because I've failed you. And you think this will end the suffering? I don't want things, Edward. Take the car, take the house. I'll work as a secretary for the rest of my life. I don't care. All I really want is you. Everything else is inconsequential, Bella cries out and crosses the room to sit beside me. Tell me why. Why should I leave you? What has changed that you don't want to fight for us now? Do you not love me anymore? I wince painfully and close my eyes, my heart feeling as if it has risen to my throat and is ready to burst through. Nothing could be further from the truth. I love you too much. What is that supposed to mean? How do you love someone too much? Bella exclaims, rising from the couch, and I look up to her. I can feel tears burning in my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. Is this about your father? I clench my pant legs in my fists and my jaw tenses, and I once again find it difficult to breathe. You can't understand. I've kept you away from him all this time, so you would never have to even try to. Make me understand, Edward. If I'm going to lose my marriage and the man I love to it, I think I deserve to know why. Does he not like me or think I'm not good enough for you? What? She asks, waving her arms out. He doesn't like me since I've been with you. Not that it's much of a change from before, but it's through no fault of yours. He's never even met you. How could he not like you? I couldn't stand the thought of you ever meeting him. I never wanted you to look at me and see him. I answer and stand as well, moving across the room and resting my hands on the bookshelf. You were right, Bella. I'm not the man you married. That man actually put the effort into setting you above everything and was ready to give you the world if you asked for it. And now, she asks softly, and I turn my head to look at her. She stands with her arms wrapped around her middle and her lips pressed firmly together until they've nearly disappeared. I drive my hand into my hair, agonizing over the pain I see clearly displayed on her face. You don't know the real man you married. If you did, you never would have. Bella's arms fall to her sides, and her eyes rise up to force back more tears, and then she sighs heavily. I know who I married, Edward, and I know you have issues with your father. Just because you won't tell me what they are, doesn't mean that I don't know that they're there beneath the surface, all the time. You don't need to. I see it, every single day. I'm not blind. And that's no way for you to live. I don't want you to end up like my mother or our kids to turn out anything like me. That's not what your future should be, I exclaim, causing her to startle slightly. You're your father's son, she says distantly, almost as if she isn't even talking to me, but simply repeating my words from earlier. That's why you don't want to have a baby with me. I brace my hands on the shelf in front of me and rest my forehead on it at her knowing tone. Bella, I've already destroyed you and our marriage, and you've done nothing to deserve it. How can I do that to innocent children? I hear her footsteps padding across the carpet until she's standing right behind me, and I feel her hands resting on either side of my waist. Baby, talk to me. I've never pressed you to talk about your family, because I know how much it upsets you. But right now, this is putting our marriage on the line, and I am nowhere near ready to throw in the towel on us. There has to still be that part of you in there that wants to fight for it. It couldn't have disappeared in the matter of hours. So please tell me what this is about. You can trust me, Edward. I lift my head from the edge of the shelf and gaze at the photograph set there of her on the beach. We'd been married for a matter of months, and despite the cool autumn weather, we'd decided to spend the day there together, away from all the pressures and stresses of everyday life. I remember watching her as I returned from the car with a blanket to wrap around her. She was sitting a few feet from the shoreline, staring out at the water with the wind blowing her loose tendrils of hair in wisps around her face. The baggy sweater she wore hid her beautiful curves and covered her to mid-thigh, but she was still the most gorgeous woman I'd ever laid eyes on. I managed to capture that moment on my phone just before she noticed my presence, and laughed as she hid her face in her knees. I take the frame in my hand and step away, moving back to the couch and sitting down. We were so happy back then. I want to believe there's no reason why we can't be again, Bella says gently, and comes to sit beside me, but leaves several inches of cushion between us. You say you still love me, and I've never ceased to love you, and I never will, no matter what. Whether you leave me or not, whether we ever have children or not, I'm always going to love you. Is love really enough? I ask, turning my gaze from the picture to her. Because I do love you, Bella, but I want you to be happy. And you want to have kids so badly, and you should. You would be a fabulous mother, that I know for certain. I can't be so sure about my ability to be a good father. I don't have any doubts about that, she replies, and I feel my face contort in disgust with myself. I don't, and you shouldn't either. Look how you are with your brother's kids, and how Emmett is for that matter. He's an entirely different man from your father, from the little you've told me of him. You can be, too. Things were different with Emmett, I mumble, my fingers clenching around the metal frame until I set it on the coffee table and fold my hands in front of me. My mother shielded and protected him from my father. That was her baby, and she wouldn't allow her husband to treat him as he did me. I don't believe that my mother cares for me any less than she does for my brother, but I was already molded into the miniature version of my father by the time Emmett was born, and I was only 3 years old. Bella's hand rises to rest on my shoulder and then gently runs up and down my back. Honey, it was your mother's responsibility to protect both of you. I'm not going to sit here and verbally bash a woman I don't know, but that is one aspect in which she failed you terribly, and I would never choose one child over any other. Please, don't. No matter what she has or hasn't done, that's still my mother, I reply tersely, my fingers tightening in my hair. I'm sorry, Bella whispers, removing her touch from me and sliding back a few more inches. I reach over to her and take her hand, tugging her gently toward me until her knee presses against my thigh, and weave my fingers through hers. You are everything to me, Bella, but I don't want to hurt you anymore, and I never want to put you in a position where you have to protect our children like that. Not from me. Bella's hold tightens on me, and she strokes her thumb lightly over my skin. Edward, I am a firm believer in nature versus nurture. The man you are is not entirely a product of how you were raised. Look at the picture again. I turn my eyes to look at her, and she gestures to the frame on the table. I draw in a deep breath before gazing at the photograph and shake my head. What am I supposed to be looking at? Her, she replies, pointing to herself in the image. The man that woman married was nothing like your father. He was kind and compassionate. He had an amazing heart and always made sure she knew exactly how much she was loved. That doesn't sound like an emotionless bastard to me. But I've changed, Bella. I sigh and close my eyes. The core of who you are has never changed, baby, Bella answers emphatically, turning my face with her hand to look at her. If it had, we'd be on our way to a divorce already. You would have just let me go, not begged me to stay. I want to believe that, Bella. I want to believe that I can be the husband I plan to be. I pause, swallowing hard against the lump forming in my throat. That I can be a father that my kids wouldn't be afraid of. No child should ever experience that. Did your father hit you? Bella asks hesitantly, her back stiffening slightly with her eyes lowered. I shake my head, squeezing her hand gently. No, he never had to. There are other ways to discipline children than physically striking them. Bella gasps softly, and I turn my gaze to meet hers again, seeing confusion and fear written within their depths, but not from me. I selfishly need her, pulling her closer to my side and drawing my strength from her. Edward, you can tell me anything. I had to be the perfect image of what he expected from his son, or I was as worthless as my brother, and an embarrassment to the family name. And I don't want another child to feel that way. I continue trying to keep my voice level while my chest restricts, my head screaming at me to shut up. Yet, as I gaze into the beautiful eyes of my wife, my heart pounds with the desire to release 28 years of pent-up frustration and hurt, reminding me that she is the one I can trust or should. For example, if I spoke out of turn, I was put in a corner, holding a stack of heavy books, until my arms felt like they were going to fall off. If I cried, I was sent to bed without dinner, and if I didn't stop, it carried over to breakfast as well. It got to the point that, even if my mother or brother tried to sneak me something when my father wasn't looking, I knew I deserved to be punished and wouldn't take it. By the time I was probably about 7, I just shut myself down. It was better not to feel anything, and then I'd be his model son, but somehow, I never was. Then you came along, and I really thought I could be a better man, and I was wrong. I've turned out just like him, and I'm terrified of doing that to another child. Bella lowers to the floor to kneel in front of me, as I instinctively begin steeling myself again, releasing my hand and taking my face between hers. Her eyes lock with mine seriously, and she shakes her head. You are nothing like him, and I know damn well you wouldn't, Edward. Not only would I never allow anyone to break my child's spirit that way, much less his or her father, but you know how much that hurts. I don't believe the man I fell in love with could ever do that. I lean back into the couch and close my eyes again, forcing back the tears that are threatening to fall again, and turning my head to the side. Her hands fall to my knees and use them to push herself up, but instead of walking away, she lowers onto my lap and straddles my legs. Bella, no, look at me, she says, squeezing her thighs around mine, as I attempt to move her to my side again. Look at me, Edward. I open my eyes as she turns my face toward her with her hands, my jaw tense in my attempt to maintain control of myself. Okay, I'm looking at you. This is me, honey. You don't need to hide anything from me, she murmurs softly, tracing her fingertips over my cheek. You can cry, scream, laugh, whatever it is you feel. I'm your wife and I love you, and I would never judge you for any of it. I always want you to feel freely with me. I'm not sure I know how to do that, I reply in a quiet tone, lowering my eyes from her again. You can, she says firmly, taking my hand from her waist and pressing it to her face. You've been happy with me at one time, remember? We've laughed together, and God knows, we've screamed our heads off at each other over the years. We've loved and hurt one another. That's all emotion, Edward. It doesn't make you less of a man to feel. It makes you human and the person I fell in love with. My breath leaves me in a rush as I feel the first tear I've shed since I was a young boy trickle down my face. My arms slide around her waist again as hers encircle my shoulders, embracing me tightly. My body racks with sobs, a lifetime of restraint finally releasing. But instead of feeling weak and pathetic, Bella's love and protection surrounds me. The caress of her touch, the press of her lips to my hair, and her whispered words telling me that everything is okay. That I am okay, it is all something I've never experienced. She doesn't need to tell me she loves me. It's coming through in everything she's doing. Why do I feel the need to keep this from her? I've been so afraid of her seeing him in me, or worse, the weak man I have actually become because of him. I should have known better. This woman loves me boundlessly and unconditionally, and always has. Why have I doubted her? I want to make this work, Bella. I don't want you to leave me. I'm sorry I ever said that. I know I don't deserve you, but God, I can't imagine my life without you. I feel her lips tremble against my temple, brushing one more kiss over my skin, before pulling back to look at me with tears in her eyes. I'm not going to leave you. All I've ever wanted or needed is my husband back. I nod, my fingers pressing into her hips to pull her closer to me. My forehead rests on her shoulder, and her hand caresses the back of my neck, and I tighten my arms around her waist to hold her more securely. I can't speak, overwhelmed by the feeling of comfort and protection in her embrace, as she cradles me against her. I'm right here, Edward. I'm not going anywhere. Oh. At some point, I must have fallen asleep, completely drained from the rollercoaster of the entire day. I open my eyes, and my head is not on my wife's shoulder anymore. Instead, I find my face settled on her lap and her fingers stroking over my hair. It is so soothing. I close my eyes again, wanting to hold on to that moment, but sleep won't reclaim me as I wish it to. What time is it? Almost 3, Bella answers softly, and I turn my head quickly to gaze up at her. The sky outside the window behind her is pitch black, and she looks exhausted. It's 3 a.m. It's the middle of the night, Bella. Why aren't you asleep? I ask, sitting up from her lap and rubbing my palms into my eyes. You have to be up early, don't you? I have sick time I can use. Some things are more important, and I wasn't going to leave you here, she says, and I turn my gaze toward her when I feel her hand rest on my shoulder. You matter so much more to me than any job, even if I liked it. How are you feeling? The creases in her forehead clearly display her concern for me, and her exhaustion is coming through in waves with the red rings around her eyes. I sigh and lift my hand to brush her hair back from her face, gazing at her silently for a moment. She is such an amazing and patient woman, and she's shown that in full force tonight. Even when I could see her heart breaking right in front of me with my words, she never gave up the fight for us. And here she sits, after watching me at my weakest moment, looking at me like I'm still the most sacred thing in the world to her. I really don't deserve her after everything I've put her through, but I am so grateful that she never threw in the towel. I'll be okay, Bella. You should get some sleep. I'm just going to grab something to eat and crash out again, most likely anyway, I reply, brushing my fingertips gently on her cheek. Bella straightens and looks at me. Okay, I left you a plate in the refrigerator from dinner. I can heat it up for you before I go to bed. I catch her hand as she rises, holding her still, and her head spins to look down to me. I feel the tension creeping back into my shoulders and tighten my fingers around hers as I stand up in front of her. I wasn't going to be my father, expecting her to wait on me. She deserved far better than to be like my mother, saying how high, long before I can even think the word jump. No, that isn't going to be us. I'll get my dinner. Don't worry about me. You've got a hope and a prayer of that happening. It's kinda part of this whole wife gig to worry, she answers softly with a small smile, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. I love you, good night. I love you too, Bella, I reply. But as she begins to step away, my hold still doesn't release on her. She stops and looks me over questioningly before I can speak again. Do we have another appointment with Juan? Bella's smile returns, and she slowly brings her lips to mine, brushing them softly, and I actually shiver from the sensation it causes inside me. I've missed holding, kissing and touching my wife so damn much. Yes, we do. Even when you walked out again, I still wasn't ready to give up on us. Thank you, Bella, I whisper in a gust of breath, hugging her against me and burying my face in her neck. I won't walk away this time, I promise. When we return to the office the next week, the atmosphere surrounding us is entirely different from either of the 2 times we've been here before. My wife is sitting close beside me on the love seat, my hand held tightly in hers, and when Juan enters the room, he cannot mask the surprise in his features. His eyebrows rise, and the hint of a smile quirks at his lips as he crosses the room to sit in the center of the long couch, in the space that was once between Bella and myself in the previous sessions. Well, I must say, this is a pleasant surprise, given how we left off in the last session. Can I ask how things have been going? He inquires and leans forward on his elbows, foregoing the pad of paper for the time being. Bella looks to me in question, and I nod, still nervous about speaking just yet. Edward and I have had a long talk, several, actually, and we are getting closer to being on the same page in our effort to fix our marriage. That is excellent to hear. Edward, how are you feeling? I know that last time, you were very angry again. Would you care to expand upon that at all? Juan asks delicately, and I tense. Only what you feel comfortable with. Bella gives my hand a reassuring squeeze, and her fingers fill the spaces between mine as I draw in a deep breath. Yet, my voice remains stilled in my throat. Honey, it's okay? I know I need to do this. For her, for me, for us. However, finding the words to do so is incredibly difficult. I'm trying. I just don't deal well with sharing personal aspects of my life. And despite everything that's happened and all I've done, my relationship with my wife is something very sacred to me. I have not doubted that once, Edward, and from what I've seen, I don't think that Bella does either, Juan says in a gentle tone, and I glance over to Bella to see her smile and shake her head. I nod, tightening my hold on Bella's hand. I'm not angry with my wife. I'm angry at myself for not being the husband she deserves, and at my father for instilling this in me. I don't want to be him. After another deep breath, I begin explaining to him everything I've told Bella about my childhood and the beliefs I was raised with. I can feel my wife's thumb run along mine in a comforting gesture, as my anxiety begins to rise, as if my father is going to burst through the door any second and start screaming at me. Are you afraid of your father, Edward? He asks carefully, and I feel my whole body go rigid. It's nothing to be ashamed of, if that is the case. I quickly shake my head. I'm not afraid of him, and I don't hate my father as much as I despise the effect that he still has on every aspect of my life, including, and most especially, my relationship with my wife, and my fear of having children of my own. And that is an understandable fear. Abuse can, in some cases, become generational, but only if we allow it to be, as individuals, Juan states, folding his hands in front of him. And sometimes, the abused child grows up to be a phenomenal parent, because they don't ever wish to inflict the pain they experienced while growing up on their own children. And the fact that you have these fears sets you far apart from your father already, Edward. I release Bella's hand and clasp my head between mine, feeling her rub my back supportively. I've never really thought of myself as abused, at least not in those terms, and hearing my childhood referenced that way shakes me. Once again, I am fighting the urge to stand up and leave. It's getting too personal and making me exceedingly uncomfortable. Even with as much as I don't get along with my father, I feel a sense of loyalty to him, and I can't stand the thought of betraying him this way. I glance over to my wife and see that knowing look in her eyes, begging me to keep fighting. "Edward, you really have taken an extraordinary step today, and if you feel the need to stop early, we can do that and pick this up next time. But I'd still like to see this continue at home," Juan says, gesturing his hand between the two of us, and I feel Bella's arms circle around my back. "You have a very special, beautiful woman at your side, and she's still right there. Try to find it in yourself to trust her." I tense with his words but not as I stand from the Levessiet, pulling Bella close to my side and holding her hand securely in mine. "Yes, I would like to go now." "Okay," Bella whispers, squeezing her fingers gently around mine, and then looks back to Juan. "We'll see you next week." We walk out of the office and stop at the front desk to make another appointment, but I never release my hold on her until I absolutely have to when we reach the car. My head is starting to pound from the anxiety of the last 40 minutes in that office, and I stop, reaching into my pocket for the keys. "Here, can you drive instead?" I ask, holding them out to her. "Are you okay?" she inquires worriedly, placing her hand on my arm. "Yeah, I'm not feeling too well," I reply vaguely and step away to walk over to the passenger side, lowering myself into the car without another word. Bella gets in as well and starts the engine, clicking her seatbelt in place as I lean my head back against the rest. "Please, just don't shut me out again, Edward. That's all I'm asking, alright?" "I'm not. It's just been a really long day," I say, running my fingertips along my forehead. Bella sighs softly and pulls out of the parking lot, driving in silence all the way home. When we step into the house, I begin to make my way to the couch to lie down and feel her hand take mine to stop me. "Let's go upstairs." I look over and lock gazes with her as her thumb runs over my wedding ring. "Bella, I don't think that's a good idea. I really just don't feel well," and Juan said. I know what Juan said, and what I said for that matter, she interrupts me, her eyes never leaving mine. "But I would really like to lay down next to my husband right now." "Nothing like that. I just want to hold you and feel your arms around me, too." In our bed, I say nothing more as she guides us to the stairs, taking one slow step after another, with me right behind her. For the first time in months, I set foot in our room, hand in hand with Bella, to lie down beside my wife and feel her body press against my side. Her leg drapes over mine and her arm secures tightly around my waist. I gently press my lips to her hair as I hold her to me, my eyes closing against the growing pain in my head. "I really do love you, Edward," she whispers, and my embrace tightens around her. "You know that you're the only one I care about appealing to, don't you?" I open my eyes again to look at her and catch the hint of a smile teasing at her lips. Her hand moves up my chest and neck to cup my jaw, and she kisses me gently. "Yes, why?" "You were jealous when Juan called me beautiful today," she replies, and I turn my head away. Sometimes, I hate how well she can read me, even I'm acting on instinct and not really thinking about it. Yet, at the same time, it's also the most amazing feeling in the world. For us to be that in tune with one another just makes me feel a little foolish. I'm nearly 30, for crying out loud. I'm admonishing myself for my immature behavior when I feel her hand come to my face and pull it back to look at her again. "I liked it. I know you think it's childish, but it really does feel good to know that the man I love still thinks I'm something to be jealous over." "Of course, you are. You're more beautiful now than the day I married you, and I know I'm not the only man who notices that. But it doesn't mean I like it much," I answer, covering her hand on my face with mine. "I never want to lose you to one of them. I love you so much, baby." "I know you do, but you won't. I'm all yours," she replies, kissing me again. "In every way. I could never love or want another man the way I do with you. And thank you for trusting me and putting yourself out there for us today. It meant everything to me." "I want this to work, Bella. I really do," I tell her, wincing slightly as my forehead touches hers. "Are you sure you're okay? Do you need something?" Bella asks, her hand shifting under mine to run over my cheek. I shake my head slowly with my eyes closed, wrapping my arms back around her. "Only you. It's just a headache." "Well, I can get you a couple of Tylenol or something," she says, beginning to roll away, but I won't let her go. "Please, just don't move. It's been so long," I reply, a desperate tone to my voice as I tighten my hold on her. "Okay, I'm right here," she murmurs, brushing her lips on my jaw. "Just rest." When I wake hours later, I feel disoriented, although my headache has subsided with sleep. It's dark and I'm in our bed, but I'm alone, and an irrational panic surges through me at Bella's absence. I rise and make my way downstairs, finding the living room dark, but a soft light is glowing from the kitchen. As I enter the room, I see my wife standing by the stove, and our small table is set with a single candle flickering in the center. Bella turns her head to look over her shoulder at me, and a smile appears on her face. Hey, I was just about to come and wake you up. It was getting late, and I thought you might want something to eat. There is a nervousness to her voice as she speaks and then crosses the room with what appears to be shepherd's pie, one of my favorites. Thank you. I'm sorry about earlier, I mumble quietly, walking over to her and kissing her cheek. Edward, you have nothing to be sorry for. You were exhausted after a very stressful session with Juan, Bella replies and shakes her head, but then her eyes lower, as she takes her lip between her teeth. Please don't be mad. I feel my eyebrows pull together, watching her arms wrap tightly around her middle. About what? I was thinking after you fell asleep earlier. I know we still have a long road ahead of us, and I also know that you hate the idea of dating your wife. Bella starts finally lifting her eyes to meet mine again. But I can't remember the last time we just sat down and had dinner together. Even in the last few weeks, it's been something we've squeezed in, between talking and sleep, and lying up there in bed with you tonight. I realize just how much I really do miss the little things with us. You don't have to look at it like a date, but I really would like to sit down and have a quiet dinner with my husband. I glance around the kitchen to all the effort she's put into tonight, between making dinner and the candles dimly lighting the room, to the wine glasses and bottle of Merlot set to the side of the table. Wine and shepherd's pie really seems like a bit of an odd combination, but there's such a hopeful look in Bella's eyes, as she waits for my response. As much as I do indeed dislike the idea of dating my wife, I find that I don't want to disappoint her more. Okay, we can do that. A smile graces her features that I haven't seen in so long. I've forgotten just how beautiful it is. It illuminates her entire face and accentuates the soft lines around her eyes from much better times in our relationship. It is painful to remember, but I am willing to do just about anything to rekindle them. Dinner seems like such a simple request. We sit down across from each other and gaze expectantly at one another, and my God, she was right again. We are so out of practice with the simplest of things, we can't even figure out how to go about something as small as who starts. Ladies first, I tell her, gesturing with my hand, and she shakes her head. No, I'm the cook. And I'm a gentleman mostly, I answer, and she growls at my smirk. Bella folds her arms on the table and leans forward, quirking an eyebrow at me. Okay, when was the last time you ate? I sigh and lean back. She knows she has one up on me there. If there is one thing I know about my wife, it's that she is very conscious of her health and eating regularly. For years, she tried to get me on a healthy schedule, but between school and work, I didn't keep up on it, and she finally gave up but apparently never forgot. I win. You first, she says with a triumphant smile, and it was my turn to snarl playfully at her. In many ways, it passes much like a first date. Nervous smiles, small talk between bites, and finally, walking her to the door, also known as the foot of the stairs. We pause and stare at each other there, and I take her hand gently in mine. So, since it's our first date and all, can I kiss you goodnight, or should I be hoping and praying I get a second one? I ask as I run my thumb gently over her knuckles. Bella appears stunned and confused for a moment, and then her smile returns. Well, I'm pretty certain there'll be a second. I kinda like you, so I think one kiss would be fine. It is such a comforting feeling to have even an instant of lightheartedness between us again, after weeks of heavy conversation and years of tension and fights, or worse, complete silence. I step closer to her, brushing the backs of my fingers over her cheek and gently pressing my lips to hers. Thank you for tonight, Bella. You're welcome, and thank you for going along with it, she whispers back with her hands resting on either side of my waist. It meant a lot to me, and even more so because of how much you hated it, and never let it show. I didn't mind so much. In fact, I think I'd like to do it again, I reply, and her dark eyes gaze up at me in wonder, as if she were looking at someone she barely knew, rather than her husband of more than 7 years. Do you think you'll be available for dinner Friday night? Maybe I can take you out somewhere really nice? Impress you, perhaps? Bella screws up her mouth in mock thought, humming softly, and it's taking everything in me not to kiss her again. Well, I have to check my schedule to make sure, but I think that just might be doable. I don't put out until at least the third date, though. I know that's code for until we talk to Juan, but I am too caught up in our moment here to let it get to me. I love her and want things to be good with us again. And with so much air cleared between us in the last few weeks, and how easy and fun tonight has been, I finally feel some real hope. "You're worth the wait," I reply, tracing her cheekbone lightly with my thumb, and I feel her shiver at the motion. Her eyes tear a little, but she quickly blinks them away, and I lean over to kiss the corner of her mouth. "Good night, Bella." "Good night, Edward," she whispers back against my ear as I hug her, clinging her fingers to my shirt and holding me there for a moment to softly add, "I love you." "I love you too," I murmur in return, and she finally pulls away to head upstairs for the night. I go to sleep tonight with a smile on my face, even though falling asleep with my wife in my arms this afternoon was incredible, and I still miss her now. It's different. Tomorrow has more of a promise than it did even earlier today, and I don't feel nearly as hopeless anymore. Oh, really?" Juan responds in shock, his eyes wide in disbelief, once we tell him of our one impromptu and one planned date last week, as well as our scheduled one for this Friday. "And tell me, how did that go?" I smile and nod, and then look over to Bella, my face falling when I find her crying. "Bella, what's wrong?" She shakes her head but never looks up, and my stomach tightens. I thought we'd enjoyed ourselves and had a couple of pretty amazing evenings of talking, laughing, and simply reconnecting, yet for some reason, they are making Bella cry, and I feel so lost. "Were they not what you'd hoped they'd be, Bella?" Juan asks curiously, and my gaze is just as inquiring. "They were the best nights I've had with him in so long, but now, I miss him even more," Bella replies at last, looking to Juan and then me. "I actually felt like I had my husband back for a little while, like the man I married 7 years ago, and then I still went to bed alone. I hate that part, but I don't want everything else to disappear." I sigh and fold my fingers between hers, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "Bella, I almost lost you once because of things changing between us. I won't let that happen again. I love you too damn much." "This is excellent," Juan says, and Bella and I break gazes to look at him, while keeping our hands joined between us. "The open, unprompted communication you just displayed here was a very positive step, and a huge difference from even last week. Did you talk to each other any more about what we discussed in our last session?" I feel Bella's hold secure on my hand supportively, and I take a deep breath before answering, "Yes." "Not on our date night, obviously, but in between." Slowly, since I'm still not overly comfortable talking about my childhood or family in general. "It has nothing to do with Bella or my comfort with her, and I'm trying, it's just hard. And I won't push him. I know he'll talk to me when he's ready, and he knows I'm always here. I don't need everything at once," Bella adds, releasing my hand to slip hers around my arm, and unconsciously moving closer, almost protectively. "That's good, Bella. He'll need your support through this, and it will very likely be a slow, gradual process." "Now, Edward," Juan says, turning his eyes to me, and I try to stomp down the nervousness rising inside me. "When we started here, you both put it on the table what you each thought were the main sources of the difficulties in your marriage. Bella said it was communication between you, and you believed it was her desire to have children that you didn't share. Is that still the case?" I sigh heavily and look down to where Bella's hand still rests on my elbow, running my fingertips over her rings and gazing at my own. "I don't know. I mean, I understand that I am not my father, and Bella would be a fabulous mother. She wouldn't allow what was done to me to happen to our own children, and I love her more than anything in this world. I'm just not sure I'm quite at the point to make that kind of leap to say I'm ready to have a child." "Edward, I wasn't expecting some kind of miraculous change overnight," Bella replies with understanding. "All I ever really wanted was honesty and openness from you, and we're at least on that track now. That being said, do you wish to share a bed with your wife again, Edward?" Juan asks, and I bring my eyes back to him, bristling on instinct. I feel as if I'm letting my wife down by putting up my guard again at the mention of the intimate aspects of my marriage with Bella, but I also can't seem to stop it. "We're not just talking about sex, honey. At least, I'm not," Bella adds, her gaze flickering to Juan for a moment before returning to me. "I'd like to sleep with my husband in the bed with me. I've missed just feeling you there, and it's still very difficult for me to get to and stay asleep alone after years of sleeping beside you. Sex is great, but not a requirement." I glance between the two of them, holding Bella's hand like a lifeline and swallowing against the lump in my throat. I do. I miss being next to her at night and haven't slept well in months either, except those brief few hours last week. "And sex. Tell Bella that." Juan encourages and gestures to my wife with his hand, obviously noticing the lingering hesitance in my voice. I worked my jaw tensely. It was difficult enough to simply answer Juan's question without having such a personal conversation with my wife in front of someone else. Nevertheless, I turned toward her on the cushion and hold her hand on my knee. We both need this. I miss you too, Bella. I'd like to be back in bed with you at night. And I miss making love to you. Bella smiles through the tears spilling down her cheeks. Even though my voice was still low, it was loud enough for her to hear, and that's all that seems to matter to her for the moment. We both look to Juan in question, and his expression is very similar to my wife's. So, what do you suggest? And once again, my sex life with Bella is going to be determined by someone else, I think to myself, but I don't vocalize it. I don't want to hinder any progress we've made here today. Juan hums in apparent contemplation, running his index finger and thumb along his chin. He then leans forward on his knees as he does when he is about to speak very frankly to us, and my body goes rigid in response. I believe that should be left to the two of you to decide. Both Bella and I are stunned by his statement, and her eyes meet mine, her lips quirking a little at the corners, before we both look back to Juan. I've seen many couples over the years having difficulties for a multitude of reasons, and regardless of how long I work with them or the outcome at the end, I am only a guide. Some things I can give you suggestions on, but they are only that, suggestions. The course you ultimately decide to take together is, at the end of the day, yours to make. You've both made some amazing progress from the first day you stepped in here a few weeks ago, barely even able to look at each other. It's very obvious how much you love one another, and I think you're in a place where you can make choices that are best for you, not what anyone else thinks or tells you. I also believe that if you can remain on this path you're on, you may not need me anymore. Already? Bella asks in stunned disbelief, and I look over to her with wide eyes, and she begins shaking her head. I mean, I'm not upset about that. I'd like to be able to just get back to my life with you. I just thought marriage counseling took longer, that's all. It only takes as long as the couple requires, and I believe you have the tools you need to keep and maintain a very strong marriage, if you take the initiative to use them. But it doesn't matter as much what I believe but that you do. And do you, Bella? Juan asks, only looking at my wife now. Bella glances at me, smiles and then nods. Yes, I really think we do now. So do I add and tighten my hold on her hand. Excellent. Right there is the most important tool you have, faith in one another. If you would like another session to follow up after this Friday, you can certainly schedule one, but again, it's suggestion, not instruction. If you don't feel you need one, I wish you the best of luck. Bella and I stand up together and smile at one another, and it's the best feeling in the world to have her so close to me again. I can take comfort in every squeeze of her fingers around mine, her cheek resting against my upper arm, and her eyes still holding so much love for me. And Edward, if you ever feel you need help with anything else, there's no shame in asking for it, Juan says calmly, and I shake my head. No, Bella is all I need for that. I reply and feel her other hand cover the back of mine, and she nods in agreement. All right, then, good luck, and take care of each other, Juan answers and stands from the couch, holding his hand out to bid us farewell. I shake it, as does Bella, and then she adds, thank you so much for everything, Juan. You are very welcome. Every night should be like this. Bella and I do share our bed together for the next couple of nights, but more to enjoy the closeness of feeling the other next to us, to hold and touch. We both seem nervous to jump back into the sexual aspect of our marriage, despite the admission on each of our parts to missing it. Yet, as we return to the house after dinner on Friday night, the atmosphere shifts. She looks so beautiful tonight and took my breath away when I came home from work to find her standing in our bathroom, wearing that burgundy dress, while she was putting on her earrings. I leaned against the door frame and smiled at her for a moment until she noticed my presence there. The deep red of her dress contrasted with her pale skin, making the long curls of her hair down her back and over her shoulder appear that much darker as well. And when my eyes met hers, I found a glimmer in them that had been missing for so long. She was happy, and God, was she beautiful. What? She asked, chuckling softly, but still shifting under my gaze as it ran over her. Is something wrong? I can't just take a moment to stare at my beautiful wife without something being wrong, I responded, stepping up behind her and gazing at our reflections in the mirror for a moment before kissing the softly scented skin at the base of her neck. My arms wrapped around her waist and I felt her hand rest on the sleeve of my shirt, tilting her back a little to settle against my shoulder. God, it felt so good to have those simple moments back with her. I almost didn't let her go until she reminded me that I still needed to change before we left. though she still managed to stop me for a soft kiss before I got too far away. And now, I am standing behind her once again as she sheds her coat just inside the front door and then turns to face me. My heart is beating faster than it did on our first date, our first kiss, and the first time I made love to her combined. We both know what each of us wants, but as far as how to progress to that, neither of us seems sure. Bella steps closer and places her hand on my cheek, brushing a soft kiss on my lips before pulling back. I'm going to change and take out my contacts. Give me 5 minutes. I take a deep breath as she walks away to head up to the bathroom, letting it out slowly and tugging my tie loose. I hate feeling this nervous with her. She is my wife, my Bella. We've been together for a total of nearly 10 years, and in that time, we've made love hundreds, if not thousands, of times. It seems utterly ridiculous to feel this way. However, it has been months since I've touched her with more than an embrace, holding her hand, or gently brushing my fingers on her cheek. I've almost forgotten the intimacy we once shared when we made love, as that has been absent for so much longer. I am realizing now just how much I've missed it, but I have no idea how to reclaim it without my base desires for her taking over. Case in point, as she enters the bedroom wearing a thigh-length, navy blue negligee, standing in the doorway temptingly. Oh fuck, I mean to say in my head, but it falls from my lips instead. Guess I made a good choice then, Bella replies with a laugh, making her way over to me, and bringing her fingers to the buttons of my shirt still left undone. Her eyes have a hazy appearance to them as they look up to me, and her hands slip beneath the fabric the instant after she finishes unfastening it. I know it's been a while and we should really be focusing on us, but I've really missed you, Edward, and I need you. I moan as her lips meet mine and bring my fingers to the thin straps of her negligee, lowering them both at once from her shoulders. I feel the flutter of the satin fabric beginning its descent down her body on my stomach, and her hands claim my face between them as I back her toward the bed. I love you so damn much, Bella. Bella's lips tremble with her smile, and her fingers make their way back to my hair, holding me against her. You have no idea how much I've missed that, too. I lay her down on the bed and hover over her, gazing down into her dark eyes. What, baby? Hearing you say you love me like that, and being able to feel that you mean it, she replies with a tear trickling down her temple. I shake my head and brush the backs of my fingers over the dampened skin, kissing her lips gently. I always have and I always will, and I promise to make sure you feel that every single day for the rest of my life. Bella's smile is breathtaking as she runs her hands over my back for a moment before sliding between us and unfastening my belt. Let's think about that tomorrow. Tonight, I would really like to concentrate on my gorgeous husband making love to me. With one more kiss to her lips, I stand from the bed to remove my pants, despite my wife's soft whimpers for me to come back to her because she's cold. I can actually see the goosebumps rise on her naked flesh and feel the slight chill in the air of the room around us myself, so I hasten my movements and tug the blanket from beneath her, pulling it around both our bodies as I settle back on top of her. Better? Bella nods, holding my eyes as she slides her arms around me again. Yes, so much better. Pressing my lips to her forehead, I begin to enter her and feel the pressure of her fingertips on my shoulder blades. It has been so long, too long, something I've sworn to her would never happen again. There won't be a next time. I know damn well I could never live without her. When our bodies at last meet fully, we lay still with our gazes locked, and only the softest of touches grazing one another's skin. We don't need to say I love you, or anything at all for that matter. Everything we need to know is clearly written in our eyes, shown in every kiss, felt in every touch. Yet we still do, over and over again as I start moving inside her, and it's the most intense feeling I can remember having in years. Coming back together with my wife this way means so much more than satisfying the physical need I've always had for her. It's all about the love we feel for one another, and recapturing that intimacy that it seems we've both missed. The arch of her foot begins to glide along the back of my thigh, hitching her knee to press against my side. Each of us moans as I fill her deeper, and I can feel myself quickly climbing toward my peak, and when her nails drag over my shoulders, it sends a shiver through my entire body. I groan against her neck with my release and tremble in her arms, as her lips move along my dampened brow. Bella's fingers run through my hair when I finally collapse on top of her, caressing my skin, and I feel her smile against my forehead. I really do love you so much, Edward. I lift my head to look at her and press my lips softly to hers. I love you too, baby. I want every day to end like this, It will, she replies and curls into my side as I roll onto my back next to her. I wrap my arms around her securely and nuzzle into her hair, enjoying the feel and scent of the beautiful woman beside me. Her palm rests over my pounding heart, her fingertips making faint movements over my chest. I need to ask you something. There's something I want to do, and I hope it doesn't make you angry. I am almost certain I know what's coming, and I'm trying not to ruin the moment we're sharing or all the progress we've made by going on the defensive. I need a little more time, honey. I'm not saying never, but I'm not ready for that just yet. Not that, Bella replies softly and raises her head from my shoulder. I don't think either of us is ready for that step just yet, no matter how good things are between us right now. I was wondering how you would feel about renewing our vows. This is a new start for us, and I'd really like to do it right this time. Go back to the beginning with a clean slate. I watch her eyes move between mine in a nervous flicker, her hand curling against my chest. You want to get married again? Bella draws in a shaky breath and nods with a hard swallow. I'd like to recommit ourselves to each other, with the past behind us and only our future ahead. I've been thinking about it for a few days, but I didn't know how you would feel about something like that. We don't have to, it was just a thought. My hand moves to rest over hers on my chest, as I ghost my touch along her neck with the other. She begins to speak again, but I tighten my hold gently on her fingers to stop her. I'd like that, Bella, I really would. Maybe I could even take you away for a weekend on a mini honeymoon, since we never got one. Really? Bella asks with a wide, beautiful smile and tears rimming her eyes. You'd really do that? For you, I will do anything, but I want that too, baby. Fresh start, I whisper, and she kisses me, and then settles her head back down on my shoulder. Thank you, she murmurs softly in return, her lips pressing to my chest and her body snuggling closer to my side. Love you. My arms encircle her shoulders, and I rest my cheek against her hair. Love you, too. Bella and I arrange a rededication ceremony for 3 weeks later, and to my surprise, my brother makes a request to be there. He apologizes for not being present at my first wedding to Bella, but finally explains that he'd spent the day comforting our mother, as she cried over missing a very special day in her son's life. Our father had banned her from attending, and it broke her heart. This angers me and snaps something deep inside. All this time, I've believed that my mother had just not approved of my marriage to Bella, as she's never told me any different in the 7 years since our wedding. However, there was nothing but honesty in my brother's eyes when he spoke to me, and I've finally had enough. For the first time in a few years, I find myself at my parents' door, knocking on it like just another visitor. My mother answers with wide eyes as she spots me here, but just as quickly stiffens when my father's voice sounds behind her. Well, Edward, isn't this a surprise? He says in that cool tone I'd grown accustomed to throughout my childhood, but now, it just pisses me off. Yes, I've come to bring my mother to my wedding, I reply with a hard glare directed at him. No, I don't think that will be possible. Your mother and I already have a prior engagement, he answers, folding his arms over his chest. She doesn't have time for your ridiculous ritual with that woman. We didn't approve of you marrying her in the first place, and now look at you. She's destroyed you. My fists ball at my sides and my jaw tenses, and I move past my mother to approach him. You listen here, you son of a bitch. That woman has a name and it's Bella, and she is my wife. And you will never speak of her that way in my presence again. And you are not going to deny my mother of attending my wedding the way you did last time. I want her there, so you can go and do whatever it is you just happened to plan for today, without her, for once. My father's eyes harden on me and his nostrils flare in anger. No, you listen. You will not disrespect me like this. I'm your father and I didn't raise you this way. You didn't raise me, you trained me to be your perfect little clone, and you have nearly destroyed my life in doing so, and I am done allowing you to. I seethe, and he appears momentarily stunned that I am not backing down from him as I used to. Respect is earned, father, not commanded. I have tried so hard to be everything you expected me to be, and it doesn't matter to you. You've robbed me of a mother for my entire life, but not today. I will have her there this time, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And Bella is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I know what happiness is because of her. She's not my servant or my possession, she is my wife. But because I allowed you to fuck with my head all these years, I've hurt her so badly that I almost lost her. Don't blame me because, like your brother, You allowed a woman to walk all over and completely emasculate you. My father sneers at me, taking my mother's arm and pulling her to his side. Now I suggest you leave my house immediately. Your mother and I have things to attend to, and you wouldn't want to be late for your little whatever it is you want to call this thing. I am not leaving without my mother, I reply flatly and glance over to her briefly, before returning my gaze to my father. Mom, let's go, please. Your mother does not wish to attend this farce, my father grinds out through clenched teeth. Yes, I do, my mother finally speaks up, and we both look over to her, finding tears spilling down her cheeks as she turns her gaze up to my father. He is my son, and I love him, Carlisle. And I want to see Edward get married. I don't want to miss this again. My father's glare at her is so fierce, I am almost afraid that it will cause her to back down from him again. His hand tightens on her arm as she tries to remove it from his hold, and she winces when it pinches her skin. You are not going, Esme. Carlisle, stop, please, you're hurting me, she cries out with a sob, and it is the last straw for me. Get your goddamn hands off my mother, I snarl, and my father's eyes are dazed, staring down at the vice grip of his fingers just above her elbow. His hold slowly loosens until he finally releases her, and she stumbles back from him with tears streaming down her face. Mom, go, pack your things, I need to get you out of here. You can stay at our place if you'd like. Esme, my father breathes out, watching her as she backs away from him to make her way up the stairs quickly. I step in front of him as he moves to follow her, blocking his path and shaking my head. Stay the hell away from her. If there is one decent thing you ever did teach me, it was that you never lay your hands on any woman like that, let alone your wife. After all she's done for you, stood beside you through all your bullshit for 30 years, even above her own children at times, and you have the nerve to treat her this way, and then talk about my relationship with Bella? At least I know that my wife loves me with all her heart, and not out of fear. Can you say that? You're pathetic. My father seems to have no reply, his entire body frozen as I've never seen before. He tries several times to utter my name, but fails with each attempt. Edward, please stop. My mother's voice carries softly down the stairs, and we both look up to her. She is wearing a long cream dress with no sleeves, and I can feel my eyes burn with fury as I spy the reddened welts rising on her skin in the shape of my father's fingers. I'm fine. Let's go before we're late. My gaze returns to my father, and my breaths grow heavy, fists clenched at my sides. I should mop the floor with your ass. Is this how you think I should keep my wife in her place? Manhandling her like a piece of meat. Sweetheart, please, let's go, my mother repeats gently from beside me, sliding her hand around my arm. I slowly step back from my father with her guidance, but never relax the sneer I feel curling my lip. You're the one who'll lose, Dad, and I feel very sorry for you. Moving to step around him, I keep myself between him and my mother, with my arm around her waist, and lead her out to the car. We ride for several minutes in silence until I hear her sniffle softly, and I glance over to find her face streaked with tears. Are you okay, Mom? I ask, and she nods in response, wiping her fingers beneath her eyes. Questions are burning to be asked, but I can't bring myself to speak again. My jaw is tense to the point of pain, and I grip the steering wheel so tight, I can almost feel it molding around them. He's never done anything like that before, Edward, I swear, she says, seemingly answering my unspoken thoughts. Your father may be a lot of things, but he's not that kind of man. Obviously, he is, I grind out, and my jaw tightens even more. I've never understood how you could let him treat you that way, or your kids, and I don't think I ever will. I love him. I know he wasn't the best father, and for that, I am more sorry than you could ever know. But he's not a bad man, she replies, and I scoff, rolling my eyes. And he does love you and your brother very much. Yeah, and he's made that so obvious by constantly reminding us of what a disappointment and embarrassment we are to him. I grumble, cracking my neck from the tension built up within it. You've heard him say these things. How does that equate to love? My mother sighs softly and then reaches her hand over to rest on my shoulder. He doesn't show it the way he should, and neither did his father. I shake my head and shift in my seat. That's not an excuse, Mom. He didn't show me, but I still love and respect my wife, and I never treat her the way he treated you back there. I would die before I laid my hands on her, and I still treat my mother with respect. Hell, I've even given it to him. Do you believe that I love you, Edward? My mother asks in a tentative voice, squeezing my shoulder gently with her fingers. I pull into the driveway in front of my house and shift the car into park, drawing slow breaths through my nose as I cut the engine. My eyes close and I lean my head back against the seat, nodding. Somehow, that's something I've never doubted, even if it wasn't clearly displayed. I wouldn't have asked you to come today if I didn't believe that to some degree. I felt my mother's hand lower to mine and take it gently, folding her fingers around it until I hear her breath catch, and she whispers, "Is that her?" I turn my head to look at her again, and her eyes are fixed on the house, and I follow her gaze to the front door. My lips finally loosen, and a smile tugs at them when I spot my wife standing beside my brother. Yes, that's my Bella. I feel my mother's hand secure around mine, and she exhales a shaky breath. I return my gaze to her again to find her eyes welling and lips trembling, as she gazes at the beautiful vision in our doorway. I would really like to meet her. I nod and break contact with her to get out, jogging over to the other side of the car to open her door. My mother's hand is shaking as she places it in mine and rises beside me, securing her hold on me as we walk toward the house. "Bella, I would like you to meet my mother, Essen." "Mom, this is my wife Bella." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Cullen," Bella replies with a soft, kind smile, holding a hand out to greet her. My mother chokes out a sob and steps away from me, moving toward Bella and pulling her into a tight embrace. "It's so good to finally meet you." Bella gazes at me, stunned by my mother's actions, but slowly brings her arms around her waist and hugs her in return. "Thank you," my mother whispers, kissing Bella's hair and squeezing her more securely. "Thank you so much for loving my son." Oh. I am pacing nervously as if I'm 20 years old all over again, and getting ready to vow my life to the woman I love for the first time. I'm actually sweating a little around my collar, but more out of anxiousness to see her, as if I hadn't only been apart from her for a matter of a couple of hours. My mother is gazing up at me with the most genuine smile I can remember seeing on her in my entire life, as she leans against my brother's arm. My sister-in-law, Rosalie, is doing everything she can to wrangle their 2 children, despite a rapidly expanding waistline with number 3, and get them settled into their seats. For the first time in as long as I could recall, despite my anxiety otherwise, I feel completely relaxed in the presence of my family. And in that moment, my breath is stolen from me. Those beautiful brown eyes I fell in love with more than a decade ago stare back at me from the doorway, and I notice nothing else in the room but her. My smile grows as I watch those creases form around them. She's so happy, though I know it's not entirely caused by me, but for once, I don't mind sharing. Part of it is due to the man walking beside her, covering her hand with his, where it rests on his arm as he walks her to me, seemingly holding on, as if he never wants to let go. Bella's father, Charlie. Her relationship with her parents hasn't been nearly as strained as my own with mine, and it was obvious that it broke her heart when we got married without her father present. So, when he told her that he wanted to come this time, I held her for an hour after she got off the phone with him as she cried. It meant the world to her, knowing that her father would be there to give her away when we renewed our vows. And those tears are still glistening in her eyes as she walks toward me in that beautiful gown. She is absolutely breathtaking, and I feel like the luckiest man in the world for the second chance we've been given. Once they reach me, Charlie bends to kiss her cheek and slowly looks to me as he releases his hold on her, and then turns to take his seat beside her mother. Bella and I repeat the vows we made to each other nearly 8 years ago, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of our lives. I thought I knew exactly how much I had to lose when I stood in front of her this way back then, but now, I realize I had no idea. I swear to myself that I will never give either of us reason to think on it ever again. With our new rings in place and her hand set gently in mine, I lean forward to press my lips to hers. Bella whimpers as I part from her, and I smile as the hint of a blush touches her cheeks, giving her fingers a gentle squeeze. "I love you, Bella," I whisper with our foreheads pressed together and gaze into her eyes. They roll back to force away tears, but her smile is radiant as she looks back at me. "I love you too." Our fingers weave together as we turn to make our way back down the short aisle, and I take in my surroundings. My mother has long wet trails streaming down her face, leaning into my brother's side, and I have to admit, it feels good to see her so happy. Emmett's arm is wrapped around her shoulders, with his other being held by Rosalie, and he smirks at me with a wink. Charlie visibly clears his throat when Bella's mother nudges his arm, giving us a nod as we pass him, but managing a smile when Bella mouths "Love you, Dad." Finally, my life feels damn near close to perfect, surrounded by my family and the woman I love more than anything in the world beside me, and seeming just as happy to be there as I am to have her. Oh. Okay, close your eyes, I instruct Bella as we're about to reach our destination, and she gives me a suspicious look. I can't help but smile and chuckle before reaching my hand over to hers and giving it a gentle squeeze. Trust me. At that, she exhales softly, leaning her head back against her seat and closing her eyes with a smile. I'd be lying if I said that small action from her doesn't still make me grin like a fool and cause my heart to race. She didn't hesitate for a moment to respond to the two simple yet what could be such weighted words between us, and her hand tightens on mine in an affectionate gesture as I raise it to my lips to brush them on her knuckles. I only release my hold on her long enough to park and make my way to her door, taking her other hand to help her out of the car. Her anxious anticipation is visible on her features, her eyes moving rapidly beneath her closed lids, and her bottom lip held tight between her teeth. I gently raise my hand to her face and release it with my thumb, and immediately brush a soft kiss against it. Relax, baby. There's nothing to be nervous about. Then can I open my eyes? Bella asks in a teasing tone, and my smile widens, slipping my arm around her waist and kissing her temple. She leans into my touch with a subtle contented sigh, and her entire body seems to relax into my side. Or are you going to let me stumble around blind? I laugh and pinch her side lightly, and the giggle that sounds from her is so beautiful and endearing. I give in. Yes, go ahead. Bella draws in a slow breath before she opens her eyes, and it stills abruptly. Before us is a rustic-looking bed and breakfast that seems to have grown into the trees and plant life surrounding it. The blend of browns amidst the green and other vibrant colors of the variety of flowers makes it feel as if we've stepped out of the real world and into our own personal fantasy, and that was exactly what I was aiming for when I started planning this little getaway with her. 1 week away from everything, to do nothing but focus on each other and starting fresh. However, when I glance over to my wife, her expression really doesn't give away much. Her eyes are flickering over her surroundings, and I feel her fingers trailing along my back, but my nervousness is getting the better of me. What do you think? I think, she replied softly, pausing to look up at me and secure both arms around my waist. This is perfect, and I love you so much. I love you, I whisper in response, tilting my head down to press my lips to hers before sweeping her off her feet and causing her to shriek. Her arms encircle my neck tightly, but our kiss lingers as I begin carrying her up the front walk until I need to break away to ascend the front steps without tripping and dropping her. Bella's face nuzzles against my neck, and I feel her fingertips running through the hair at my collar as her head lowers to my shoulder. The last time I carried her over the threshold this way, she'd rolled her eyes and laughed, calling it a silly tradition. Yet, even though we are not at our door yet, she is not laughing. She is not calling me old-fashioned or squirming in my arms for me to put her down. She's holding on to me securely around my shoulders, her ankles are crossed. She has as little intention of releasing me anytime soon as I do of her. It is a sentimental and important moment for the both of us. The ceremony was the new beginning for our marriage, and this is the fresh start of our lives together. I finally reach the door to our room and groan, and Bella gazes at me in question. I really don't want to put you down, but I've just realized a little flaw in my plan to be romantic here. The key is in the inside pocket of my coat. Her smile spreads across her lips, and she brings one hand between us, sliding it inside my jacket and into the pocket. I feel her fingers bend and twist within it, finally gripping the object in question and retrieving it. I thought you were going to tell me I've gotten too heavy for you or something. It's obvious she's only joking, but I brush my lips on her jaw as she glides the key into the doorknob and turns it, gently pushing it open. Not even close. Bella releases a soft gasp as I cross the threshold with her in my arms, her eyes taking in our surroundings. She lingers for a moment when I set her feet on the floor, turning her head toward me with a smile, before taking my hand and walking further into the room. Her eyes fall to the bed as we pass, and her fingers gently tighten around mine, but she continues on through until we reach the doors leading out to the private deck. The sun is beginning to set, creating a beautiful canvas of colors in the sky. My wife seems to be soaking in the sight as she makes her way to the railing and leans back against me when I step up behind her. We stand in silence with my arms wrapped around her, her fingertips tracing over the back of my hand, while we stare out at the view. I can't believe it didn't rain. It really didn't look promising this morning, she says suddenly, tilting her head a little to press into my neck. Remember our first wedding? Like I could ever forget, I reply, and her eyes turn to me, glancing up to meet mine. Not only was it one of the best days of my life, but you also woke me up at 4 in tears because it was raining. In my defense, that wasn't just rain, that was a torrential downpour, with thunder, lightning, and I think I even remember hail. You're lucky that I didn't take that as a sign and call off the wedding, Bella responds with a laugh. You were so mad about those water stains on your dress? I recall with a chuckle, lowering my head and pressing my lips to the base of her neck. Ever had any regrets about not taking the sign? Bella leans her cheek against me and lifts her hand to run her fingers through my hair and down my neck. Never. Not for a moment. I wouldn't even trade the worst of times with you for better ones with anyone else. You were worth fighting for, and with. And I am more in love with you now than I've ever been. So, no, I don't have any regrets about anything. My gaze rises again. Tom meets hers, and she draws me closer to press her lips to mine. I turn her body in my arms and tighten my hold on her, reveling in this moment we are sharing. God, I love you, Bella. Her hand threads into my hair, and she releases a soft whimper, but her touch remains gentle even as her nails scrape lightly along my scalp. It's been a long day. I think we should go to bed. The whispered words are followed by her fingers sliding down to my chest and into the space between two of the buttons on my shirt. With the hint of a smile on her lips, she turns us toward the door, backing through it and guiding me along with her. No, leave it open, Bella says as I move to close the door, continuing to tug me back toward the bed. Suddenly, she stops and turns around, sweeping her hair off her neck and glancing at me over her shoulder. Unzip me? I step closer and brush a kiss on the shell of her ear, slowly lowering the zipper on the back of her dress. You looked so amazing today, baby. I wanted to be beautiful for you, she whispers in a shy tone, her face dipping slightly. My fingertips rise to her chin and gently lift it, shaking my head when her eyes meet mine. You are always beautiful to me, Bella, but you literally rendered me speechless today. I almost had to say my vows in nods and hand gestures. A soft giggle emits from her as I brush her lips with mine, slowly guiding the dress from her shoulders until it flows down the rest of her body to the floor. She takes a step forward, removing her shoes as well, before turning to face me again, and my eyes soak her in. Bella is just as beautiful and flawless as she was on our wedding night all those years ago, and can still make me ache for her in a single glance. Yet, words cannot describe how perfectly exquisite she is to me right now. Soft, white lace encompasses her breasts and hips, and my fingers are itching to remove all traces of it and touch every inch of her bare skin. Come here, she whispers, slipping her fingers through my belt loops and gently pulling me toward her. What's wrong? You're looking at me like you haven't seen me in years. Her statement and the perplexed expression on her face stirs me, and I raise my hand to gently graze her cheek. For so long, any intimate contact we made with one another had been in a dark room, behind closed doors and drawn curtains, more need than desire. And until a few weeks ago, I had almost completely forgotten what it was like to watch my wife's face as I made love to her, to look into her eyes and see how much she loved me, and for her to see the same reflected in mine. To long and never again. Nothing's wrong, at all, I reply, and she watches me warily as she begins to unbutton my shirt. Once she reaches the bottom, I shed the garment from my shoulders and let it fall to the floor, instantly taking her face in my hands as her fingertips explore my chest. I swear, everything is absolutely perfect. Bella hums against my lips as they meet hers, wrapping her arms around my back and curling her body into mine. We slowly continue to undress one another, pausing only for brief moments to gaze at each other or share a kiss. And when we finally lower together onto the bed, she shivers, yet pulls me close to her. Please don't, Bella breathes out, as if knowing I am about to rise to go shut the door, opening her eyes to look up at me. It feels good. A gentle, cool breeze ghosts over my back as our bodies come together, and I have difficulty keeping my gaze where I want it, on Bella, with how good it actually does feel. It heightens the warmth of every touch, and even leaves a strange sensation running over my skin in the trails of her fingers, running along my shoulder blades as we begin to move. It changes everything about that moment. The scent of the air and even the view of my wife, blowing tiny wisps of hair around her face. She's absolutely enchanting, and I finally hold my focus exactly where it belongs. The woman I will love and cherish for the rest of my life. My world and my future lying here beneath me at this very instant. My beautiful, amazing Bella. For an entire week following the ceremony, I concentrate on nothing but my wife, and starting everything anew with her. Nothing else matters to me, and for one blessed week, it feels good to not have to worry or think. However, the real world engulfed us once again with a blinding force when we returned home, finding both my parents and my brother standing on our doorstep waiting for us. Everything has been so close perfect, and then to return home to this, my entire body goes stiff. Bella's hand rises to circle around my arm, and I can feel her worried gaze on me, but I can't take my eyes away from their destination. My father is standing there on my doorstep, the last place I have ever expected to see him, or even desired to. I hear Bella's breath draw in sharply, and her grip on my arm tightens. I cover her hand with mine and walk past him without a word. I won't let him near her. Edward, his voice sounds behind me as I reach the front door, and I freeze, my jaw tensing. I'm not doing this with you. I growl harshly and refuse to look at him. I didn't come to cause a problem, he replies in a tone I've never heard before. It's almost subdued, but it is still not enough to ease the tension surrounding us. Then what did you come for? I finally ask, turning around and shifting my gaze to him. You couldn't be bothered to come to my home in all the years I've lived here. You wouldn't lower yourself that much, and you're not going to mistreat my wife in her own home, so it would be better if you leave, now. Edward, Bella says softly, running her hand along my arm. Can I talk to you? I nod, and she guides me inside the house, closing the door behind us. When she releases me, I raise my hand to my hair and run my fingers through it, roughly as I pace. I can't believe the audacity of that man. I won't let him hurt you, Bella. He's going to leave. Bella catches my shoulder as I move to pass her, and I look to find her shaking her head. Do you think we could let him stay? My eyes widen and I take a step back, gazing at her in shocked disbelief. Bella, what are you talking about? Nothing good can come of him staying here. After everything he's put all of us through, he doesn't deserve it. What that man has done was horrible and cruel. I'm not denying or dismissing that, Bella says softly, and takes my face between her hands. And you have every reason to be angry, but baby, your mother and brother are out there, too. And do you really think that Emmett would be here with your father? If he had any intention of hurting either of us, your brother wouldn't tolerate that. You'll always wonder why he came if you never ask. You don't know him, Bella. He doesn't care about anything or anyone but himself. I grind out through clenched teeth, my hands gripping her waist for support. Whatever he's trying to do here, I want no part of it. I don't understand how you are willing to. Because you need this, Edward, Bella replies with her fingertips ghosting lightly over my tense jaw. Forgiveness for the past may never come, and that's okay. But this may be the only way for you to really move forward. But now, we just got home from our honeymoon, I say, and her hand cups my face again. We have to start somewhere, honey. It's a day of new beginnings, right? Maybe not exactly what we had planned, but if he causes a problem, I will personally ask him to leave. I'm not afraid of him either, Bella answers firmly. And I love you so much, Edward. I love you too, I reply, and she smiles, sliding her hand down my arm and taking mine. Bella leads us back to the door and opens it, to find my family still standing at the bottom of the steps. My gaze holds that of my father, and my fingers grip Bella's securely. My mother stands slightly away from him and beside Emmett, watching our approach and straightening her shoulders in preparation, it seems. Then my wife surprises me by stepping toward my father, and extends her hand. Hello, Mr. Cullen, I'm Bella. He appears as stunned as the rest of us and glances to me, and I manage a curt nod before he folds his own hand around hers. Hello, Bella. It's nice to meet you. Oh. And that is what led me here, to another couch with yet another therapist seated across from me, pad in hand. In place of Bella, my parents and brother surround me, each of us just as silent as the rest. So, who would like to start? The petite woman, Jane, begins, her eyes roaming between us as we gaze at one another. I will, my mother answers, sitting up a little straighter where she is settled between me and my father. I'm about 30 years too late in doing this, but I want to mend my family. My boys mean the world to me, but so does my husband, and I haven't managed my roles as both wife and mother well at all. My fists tighten on my knees, and I press my knuckles into them, their loud crack filling the room, and Jane asks if I have anything to add to that. Not at the moment. My son is angry with me, not his mother, my father chimed in, and I draw in a deep breath through my nose, but can't look at him. I've failed both my sons and my wife. Edward, Emmett, Jane speaks in an inquiring tone, and I shift uncomfortably in my seat, while my brother simply lowers his eyes. Her eyes return to me, and I fold my arms over my chest. What is it that makes you so angry, Edward? I finally turn my head to look at my parents and shake my head. How can you mend something that never really existed? We've never been a family. Edward, my brother mumbles, and I glance at him, finding his head shaking at me. What, Emmett, can you tell the lady what it was like to have conversation at the dinner table at night? Vacations, baseball games, hell, having anything resembling a family, or God forbid, a fucking father. I know I sure as hell can't. I snarl, knowing I shouldn't be taking it out on my brother, but 28 years' worth of anger is rearing its ugly head inside me. Jane props her temple on her thumb and forefinger, her gaze remaining locked on me. Can you tell me what brought you here today, then, if you have no hope that this can be mended? Because my wife and mother asked me to. End of story. I snap bitterly, avoiding any and all eye contact with the other occupants of the room and leaning my head back against the couch. And I already know the psychobabble that is bound to follow that statement. It won't work unless I'm here for the right reasons, and I have to be willing to do it for myself, not just for others. But honestly, I don't know that I have any other reason to be here aside from the people I actually care about: my wife, my mother, and my brother. I catch sight in my peripheral of my mother's hand encasing my father's in a comforting gesture, and my mind snaps, and I stand from the couch quickly. This is why we are all here today. I bellow as my gaze turns to Jane, pointing toward my parents' joined hands. What the fuck, Mom? Emmett mumbles, taking us all by surprise, and we glance at him with wide eyes. It was unusual to hear a single harsh word leave my brother's lips, and even rarer still to witness the level of anger brewing within him at this moment. I really thought something had changed. When you showed up at Edward and Bella's ceremony, I thought finally, she's opening her eyes, seeing what this man has done to our family, but nothing has. After all this, you're still comforting him, not your kids. We needed this and never got it, and I didn't have it nearly as bad as my brother did. You have never stood up for Edward until the wedding, and now, we're right back where we started. I'm sorry if this sounds immature, Jane, but I've been waiting my entire life to say this. When the fuck are we going to be your goddamn priority, not him? His statement renders me speechless, and I feel as if I can't move my feet. As much as I love my brother, he's always seemed to be voluntarily and blissfully unaware, his mind's eye closed to all that surrounded us. He has been a perpetually happy person all his life, and I've never been able to understand it. Having grown up in the same house as children, I believed for years that it was because he at least felt he had our mother to cling to. But now, it's obvious that it has not been the case. He harbors just as much anger toward her as I do, and for essentially the same reasons. He always was the more empathetic of the two of us. For the first time in my life, I don't feel as if I am standing alone within the confines of my family unit. Oh. When I return home, I find Bella seated on the couch waiting for me, and it is the most comforting sight I've seen all day. Her warm smile, her hand resting on the cushion beside her and beckoning me over, is everything I need right now. I walk across the room and lower down next to her, resting my head in her lap. The instant I feel her fingers find their way to my hair, I relax even more. Finally, after so long, we were so perfectly in tune with one another's needs. How'd it go? She asks softly, and I take her free hand from my chest and raise it to my lips. That good? I open my eyes to gaze up to her and notice a worried expression in her features, one I wish to extinguish immediately. It was enlightening, just exhausting, and I see a very long road ahead, which doesn't help matters. But surprisingly, I'm glad I went. Bella's smile returns, as does the light tracing of her fingers through my hair. It's relaxing and feels so damn good. My eyes close, and I know I could easily fall asleep right here in her lap. Good, I'm glad. The first step is always the hardest, but now at least that part is behind you. I nod but don't otherwise move. I love how calm and tranquil I am here in this room with her, where once there was nothing but tension and arguments. I feel like an entirely different man from the one I was before. I'm no longer hiding behind walls from her, scared of her seeing what's on the other side. She has now seen me at my best, my worst, and everything in between, and she still loves me. I can breathe again, and so can Bella. We're happy and in love, and I never want to leave this place again. Her fingers stop moving, and she remains still, and then begins to gently shift out from beneath me. I slip my hand around her knee under my head to hold her in place, allowing a smirk to touch my lips. Where do you think you're going? Well, she replies, seemingly pausing for effect, and I open my eyes to look up at her. She is tugging at the corner of her lips with her teeth as she tucks her hair behind her ear, before returning her hand to mine. I was getting up to let my husband rest while I go make dinner, but if you have some objection to eating. I furrow my brow as she trails off with a shrug, turning on my side toward her and rising up on my elbow. But it's Friday. Bella draws a slow breath in, her mouth curling up at the corners with her nod. Yes, that it is. So why would you be cooking on our date night? I ask, and her eyes begin to mist before she lowers them. I bring my fingertips to her chin and tip it up slightly, tilting my head to catch her gaze. What is it, baby? Nothing. I just didn't think we'd still be doing that tonight. I figured you'd want some time for yourself after everything this afternoon. My palm cups her cheek and I guide her face closer to me, brushing a soft kiss against her lips. Time with you is time for myself, Bella, and I've been looking forward to it all week. You have? Bella responds, her eyebrows rising sharply in surprise, and I smile. For a date with your wife? I hate to tell you this, Mr. Cullen, but I dare say that you might be growing up a little. I laugh at her teasing, pulling her in for another kiss with my fingers weaving into her hair. I know, it's scary, isn't it? Extremely, she whispers and nudges my nose with hers. I think you're still a keeper, though. I lower my hand to pinch her hip and she yelps, laughing as she throws her head back against the couch. Her back arches with the movement, and I nip lightly at the bottom curve of her breast, and then quickly rise from the couch. Come on, let's go get dressed. Bella's jaw drops, and she gapes at me with wide eyes. Oh, that was so not right. I reach down for her hands and pull her up to stand in front of me, pecking her lips gently with mine. I'll make it up to you later, I promise. Oh yes, you definitely will. Now to pick out something to wear, she replies in mock contemplation as she moves away from me toward the stairs, tapping her fingertip on her chin and glancing over her shoulder to me. Payback can be very sweet and far longer lasting. Bella shrieks when I growl at her, running up the steps as I begin jazzing her toward our bedroom. I catch her at the top and she laughs when I wrap my arms tightly around her waist from behind, but rather than continue down the hall, I lower my head to her shoulder. My lips press to the base of her neck, and I feel her hand rise to run her fingers through the hair at my collar. I don't think I will ever tire of how good it feels to be this lighthearted with her again. No matter how shitty my day has been, I can come home to this. I love you. I love you too, Bella replies and turns her face to kiss my forehead. Now, let's go eat before I'm tempted to ask for dessert first. Indeed, the road has been a long one when it came to delving into a lifetime of dysfunction within my family. There was a lot of frustration bottled up inside the two of us Cullen boys that has come out in anger. Our mother has spent a good majority of the time in tears, and none of this has surprised me. What has, however, is my father. He's never been a man to admit to his mistakes and for years has justified his treatment of his wife and children as the way he was taught and therefore, it was the correct way. What I have seen over the last few months from him has made him nearly unrecognizable to me at times. There have definitely still been moments where it all comes rushing back and I see the man that dominated over us throughout my entire life. But the instances are growing less frequent, though that's still not saying much. He was groomed this way for more than 2 decades before even I came along, so I'm not expecting him to become a model father of the year overnight, if ever. Despite this, I find myself exceedingly uncomfortable with the suggestion from Jane that it might be a good idea for Bella to join us for at least one session. No, absolutely not, I instantly reply, my posture stiff and my fist clenched tight. She doesn't need to be subjected to this. Don't you believe that she already has been, even if indirectly? Jane asks calmly, tilting her head in question. I understand your reservations, Edward, I honestly do. However, she's been a member of this family since the moment she married you, as much as Rosalie has. You've mentioned that you've had difficulties in your marriage, and at least partially due to the effect your upbringing has had on you. Shouldn't she at least be given the choice? I glance over to Rosalie, who is seated beside my brother with her hand wrapped securely around his, while her other arm cradles their newborn son. One would never believe that they've been together longer than Bella and I have, since their sophomore year of high school, married the summer after graduation, and had the first of their 3 children the following spring. Their love and devotion to each other is astounding, and has never wavered once over the years, and their support of one another is mutual and equal on both sides. That's something I am still learning, and if there is one thing I still hate myself for, it is that. And it is with this thought that I realize that Jane is right. Bella has been through a lot with me throughout the duration of our relationship, having to cope with the effects of my family and upbringing, before even knowing the root of it all. Everything had been thrown on her all at once, and to her credit, she amazed me with the level of grace she was able to conjure to hold herself together, in addition to her husband as he fell apart. Yes, she deserved the choice and opportunity to confront it all. I'll ask her and let Bella decide. The metal handle of the spoon she was holding clangs against the stovetop and the tile of our kitchen floor, as Bella stares at me in shock when I pose the question to her the following day. "Are you serious?" she asks with wide eyes as she clicks the burner off and turns to face me. "You don't have to. Jane just thought you should be presented with the option, and I agree. But I'm not going to make you go if you're not comfortable with it. It's not a requirement that you go, baby." "Edward, stop." Bella cuts off my rambling and proceeds to close the distance between us. "Of course, I want to. Why would you think that I wouldn't?" I close my eyes and rest my hands on her hips, guiding her closer. "It's not really that I don't think you would want to." Bella's hands run along my arms in a soothing motion. "Then what? Do you not want me to go?" I slide my arms around her waist and rest my forehead on hers, grounding myself within her embrace. "I still don't trust him, Bella, and with the way he's treated and spoken to Rosalie over the years, I don't trust myself to be in the same room with him. If he treats you with even a fraction of that amount of disrespect, I couldn't bear it if he hurt you." "Edward, I'm a big girl. I can handle myself," Bella answers, tracing her fingertip along my jaw. "Baby, the only way he can hurt me is by hurting you. Nothing else matters, because he doesn't know me any better than I know him. And if he starts anything, there is nothing saying that we have to stay. We can leave at any time. It'll be fine." She pauses for a moment, gazing at me as she links her fingers behind my neck, and I stare back at her with questioning eyes. "What is it?" "I'm just wondering why you didn't say something last night instead of waiting until now." I sigh and tighten my arms around her. "I fucked up again. I'm sorry. I was going to, but when I got home, you looked so beautiful and happy. I didn't want to weigh down our date night with a heavy topic like that. And then this morning." Bella bites her lip, and her smile grows, as does the warm flush on her cheeks, as if she's recalling the memory as well. "Yeah, I guess we were both a bit distracted this morning." Her words are mumbled softly against my lips, and I brush hers with a gentle kiss. "I really am sorry." "I'm not upset, I was just curious. I like to enjoy our time together on Fridays, too. But if there's something we need to talk about that happens to arise on a Friday, don't think that you can't discuss it with me. Even if it's heavy, we'll get through it together, okay?" she says, and I answer with a nod, and she pecks my lips gently with hers. "Good. Now, dinner is almost ready. Can you set the table after you change your shirt?" My eyebrows knit together, and I look down between us, and sure enough, a spot of spaghetti sauce has transferred from where it splattered her to the front of my shirt. "Sure thing, on both counts." I wear an apron while I cook for a reason, Edward, she calls after me as I make my way down the hall, unbuttoning my shirt and chuckling. "Bella." Edward's tension is unmistakable as I sit beside him on the couch from the tightness of his grip around my hand. I'm not entirely calm myself as I gaze across the room at my in-laws, whom I barely know, since Emmett and Rosalie were unable to make it, with the exception of what my husband has told me over the years. Yet, after everything we've been through, I can't imagine being more proud of Edward than I am right now. Mending our marriage and getting our relationship back on track has been a difficult journey for both of us. But if anything, it's only served to make me fall as much in love with him as I've ever been, and then some. Finally, we share a level of trust in each other that should exist between a husband and wife, and neither of us feels alone anymore. However, unlike our marriage that has seen happy times once, he's never had anything like that with his family. I've watched him continue to struggle with his confidence and security at times, even with me. That level of trust between us is far better than it was, but definitely a work in progress. From the moment I officially met Mr. Cullen that day on our doorstep, there have been many things I have wanted to say to him, and very little of it would ever be considered cordial and polite. Yet through all of Edward's ranting and fuming in our living room, I could see that part of him that needed to sort things out with both his mother and his father, even if he couldn't at that precise moment. He needed me to be supportive through something that was bound to be very difficult for him, and that has been the easy part. Sitting here in the same room with the man who has caused my husband so much pain over the years, in a place where we are supposed to be able to say whatever we feel, not so much. Edward has made such significant strides with his family throughout the time he's spent in therapy with them, and the last thing I want to do is be the reason for any kind of setback. "Bella." Jane says my name and I instantly look up to her, but I can also feel the eyes of everyone else in the room on me as well, and it makes me nervous. "I'm glad you have decided to join us this week. Edward talks about you quite often now, and I know this situation has had a significant impact on you as well." I believed it was only appropriate that you should have the opportunity to directly voice any thoughts or concerns you might have. My hand tightens around Edward's as my eyes meet his, and he gives me a subtle nod of encouragement. I don't exactly know where to start. Wherever you want, Bella. Anything you want to say, you can, Edward replies, releasing my hand and sliding his arm around my shoulders. I notice the way Mr. Cullen's eyes lock on Edward's hand resting on my shoulder, and I manage to find my voice. I have many thoughts and concerns. I love my husband, and we have worked so hard to get to where we are now. We are finally happy again, but I can't lie and say I'm fully confident that all of our problems are behind us. Edward draws in a nervous breath and his eyes lower. But my gaze meets Jane's as she settles back in her seat expectantly. My hand rests on Edward's knee, giving it a gentle squeeze, and his fingers loosen on my shoulder. It's okay, honey, I'm fine. What is it that worries you, Bella? Jane asks, bringing my attention back to the moment. Edward regressing, I speak before I can think too much on it, and turn my eyes to look at Mr. and Mrs. Cullen. You have an amazing son. I don't understand why it has taken you this long to see that. He has tried so hard for years, striving for your approval, and has never felt like he's gotten it, or done well enough to earn it. He has spent so long focused on gaining your respect that our relationship became that of roommates rather than husband and wife. We basically shared a residence and nothing else. Sure, everything is great now, and Edward is doing so much better on so many levels, but I'm worried about what happens after you all walk out of this room for the last time. Without this environment of being able to safely say whatever is on your minds, what then? Is it going to go back to the way it was before? Will he still be your son, or just another employee that has to work his ass to the bone and sacrifice everything for an ounce of credit? Edward's father stiffens, displaying that he knows that I directed my question mainly at him, despite addressing both him and his wife. He isn't wrong, obviously. I watch as he holds his silence, though it isn't hard to discern that there are just as many things he'd like to say to me from the burning in his deep blue eyes. I'm beginning to wonder how much of this change of his that Edward has told me about is actually real, and not just an elaborate act. Then my breath halts as he lowers his head, his gaze on the carpet as he leans forward and rests his elbows on his knees. Bella, if I may call you Bella? His soft tone startles me. It is not what I have come to expect from the hard man I've heard described to me. His eyes are also somewhat pleading as they rise to meet mine, clearly waiting for some form of response from me. Normally, I prefer for people I don't know well to address me by my given name, but I had introduced myself to him as such, so I can't understand why he would ask that. Also, in this instance, since he's Edward's father and essentially family, I give him a silent nod and wait for him to continue. Carlyle's shoulders relax a little and he releases a small sigh, clearing his throat before he continues. I know this may seem difficult to believe given the way I have raised them, but I do love my boys, Bella. I cannot go back and change the past as much as I wish I could, nor can I right all the wrongs I have done to my family, but I can try my best to not make any more mistakes. And I've had thoughts about leaving the company. Edward suddenly interjects, and every head in the room snaps toward him, including mine. I honestly believed that there were no more secrets between us, and then he springs this on me out of nowhere. As if he could hear every thought going through my head, he turns to look directly at me and releases a slow breath. I'm not keeping things from you, Bella. I've wanted to for years, but I knew I could never go through with it. This wasn't ever something I wanted to do in the first place, but it was expected of me. Then once we got married, I knew that if I worked hard enough, I would have the security to give us a good life, to give you everything you deserve. I couldn't guarantee that with any other career, so in the end, it wasn't even a consideration for me to follow through. Edward, I never. Please let me finish, Bella. Edward cuts me off, and I am a bit startled by his tone with me. Yet, as I surreptitiously glance around the room to the stunned stares surrounding us, I find myself less surprised by his shift in demeanor. His words are softened further when he brings his hand to take mine again, and weaves our fingers together, and then lifts them to his lips to press a gentle kiss to my knuckles. I know you have never asked me for anything material, but that has never stopped me from wanting to give it to you. I couldn't do that with some menial job while I pursued what I wanted to do, nor is it fair to ask you to put your life on hold again while I got my head together. I wait for him to continue, as it seems the rest of the room's occupants do as well, but his eyes remain on the floor. The wall going up around him again is almost visible, so I bring my focus solely to him again, encasing his hand between mine. Edward, I don't care if we'd have to sell the house and go back to an apartment or give up our cars and have to walk everywhere. Having these things doesn't matter if you're not happy. Not everything can revolve around whether I'm happy or not, Bella. There are two of us in this marriage. His response surprises me into silence again, as does the ferocity in his eyes as he looks at me again. There are things that you want that will never happen if I'm working 80 or 90 hours a week, while there are others that would be an impossibility if I don't. There's no easy answer here, but at some point, it has to be about what you want to, right? And this is the moment where I feel my stomach drop and regret seep into my heart. My own words, spoken in anger months ago, ring in my ears as he repeats them back to me, and I can't find the words to respond. Edward obviously sees the guilt washing over me, and he releases my hand to wrap his arm around my shoulders. I sincerely mean that. I want you to be happy as well, and I know that outside of the progress in our marriage, you're not. And I don't know how to give you everything, no matter which road I take. What is it that you want? Carlisle asks suddenly, and both Edward and I turn our heads to look over to him. I find no malice in his eyes as he gazes directly at me, only genuine curiosity, yet I'm still not sure how comfortable either of us feel with discussing the intimate details of our private life with him. I will be completely honest here. I knew a long time ago that Edward never wanted to work for me, but he was such a natural and so intelligent. He was an invaluable asset to the company. And there's the problem right there, Edward states in a remarkably calm tone. When it comes to business, I'm not even a person, let alone your son. Leaving familial bonds outside the office is one thing, and understandable. I would never want to be treated preferentially because I'm the boss's kid, but damn it, I'm not a possession or an object or a tool. I'm a human being. What would you have done if I was born with a low IQ or had no mind for business at all? Would I even be that in your eyes? Edward starts, but Carlisle holds up his hand to stop her. My hackles immediately rise. Can't he even allow her to speak or comfort her son, who has begun to show hints of distress in his voice? His next words cease my mounting anger. Please stop trying to defend or make excuses for me. He deserves an honest answer. I feel Edward's muscles tense beneath my hand as if he is bracing for some kind of impact, which I hate to say, is a very real possibility. My fingers curl around his knee, and I give him a gentle squeeze as a reminder that he isn't alone, but he doesn't even acknowledge it. His eyes are fixed intently on his father. Carlisle draws in a deep breath, seemingly collecting his thoughts as he stares at the rug in front of him, before finally meeting Edward's gaze again. I won't lie to you and say that it wouldn't have bothered me at all. From the day you were born, I had such plans for your future. My firstborn, my pride and joy from the moment I laid eyes on you, whether you can believe that or not. My son, that I would be able to pass everything I had worked so hard for all my life down to. I would have been disappointed if neither of my boys had any inclination toward the business, but would I love you any less, or treat you any differently than Emmett? When he said he had no interest in the company, no, I would not. Regardless of what you might think, I will still be disappointed if you decide to leave. I won't deny that. But you need to do what's best for you, and for Bella. So again, what do you want, Edward? No more than any other man wants, Edward replies with a small shrug. To provide a good life and home for my wife, and actually get to see her at the end of the day without having my face buried in a laptop. To be there for my kids whenever they might come along, and be a father, not just a figurehead in the household. For them to never doubt how much I love them, and be at every ballet recital or baseball game, or whatever they want to do. Just have a happy life and family that simply will not happen if I'm never around. I sit there, stunned, speechless by everything that is just spilled forth from my husband's lips. I've known for years that Edward has had some very deep-rooted fears when it comes to becoming a father, and that a lot of it stems from his own relationship with Carlisle. Yet, the most he has ever said is that he doesn't know how to be a good dad, and he didn't want his children to grow up fearing him as he did with his father. He's been so hesitant to even discuss the topic of children, and here he is, finally baring his soul to us all. To his credit, Carlisle does seem a bit uncomfortable and possibly even a little ashamed of the impact he has had on his son, and the hint of resentment present in Edward's voice. Do you have something in mind as to what you will do if you leave? Edward's eyes lower, and he shakes his head. I've never really had the opportunity to think much on it, so no. I do know that I am tired of living to work instead of working to live. I want an actual life. A loud buzz sounds from the table beside Jane, signaling the end of our time. She sets her notepad aside and looks between Edward and Carlisle with a smile. Today was a huge step for you both, and that has been wonderful to witness. But it can't end here. Edward, you need to put thought into how you would like to progress from here, and what you want, not only what you would like to provide. And Carlisle, your honesty today is commendable, and you were actually listening to what your son had to say. Keep the dialogue going between the two of you. As Bella also stated, no one sitting here wants to see Edward regress. As we all begin to stand preparing to leave, Jane gestures toward me as Edward is saying goodbye to his mother, nodding to the side, and I follow her. Thank you for asking to have me join you all here today. She shakes her head with a smile as she accepts my extended hand. No, thank you for coming. Edward has made some significant strides since we began our work here. But today has been the deepest he's shown of himself, aside from anger. He knows you're there to be his support system, and that is so vitally important, at least until he can feel the confidence within himself, and that has taken years to stifle, so I could take just as long to build, if it ever completely does. I nod with a quick glance over to my husband, and then return my gaze to Jane. I know, I'm here for him, however long it takes. Just remember that it's not a one-way street, Jane adds with the seriousness of her tone, matching the intensity of her eyes. For him to be able to depend on you is wonderful, unless he becomes dependent. There's quite a difference between the two, and you have needs as well. Don't allow his to always take precedence. Her words strike me hard, and my mind is reeling all the way out to the parking lot. I honestly have never thought that I put Edward's needs above my own, especially not since we've taken the steps to work on our marriage. I was prepared to leave him because everything was always about him and his needs, while I was never a consideration. The last thing I ever want is to fall back into that hole. By the time we reach the car, it's obvious that Edward notices how far away my mind I am. He stops me before I can get in by taking my hand and leaning back against the passenger door. You okay? I look up to find his brow furrowed in concern, the tension that had been present inside that room now significantly reduced. I give him a small smile and nod. I'm fine. Would you tell me if you weren't? He asks, his eyes growing sad. In this moment, my question is answered. No, it's not always about him, nor is it a one-way street to support his needs. He's just as attuned to me as I am to him, and his desire to be there for me is just as strong. My smile becomes more genuine and broader, as I reach up to touch his face, and give him a gentle kiss. Of course, I would. Don't worry about me, I'm okay. Edward eyes me questioningly for a moment, but then he wraps his arms around me to pull me closer. I love you. Thank you for doing this today. It really did mean a lot to me. I love you too, and I am so proud of you, I reply, meeting his lips with mine and circling my arms around his neck. He leans into the kiss and pulls me closer, and we are lost in the moment of complete bliss, until we hear a throat clearing behind us. We break apart and look behind me, finding Carlisle standing there awkwardly. I start to step aside, but Edward's arm holds me firmly around the waist, keeping me against him. Is there something you need? Edward asks, his voice tense again. It really would be a very long road for the relationship with his father. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I would like to talk to you, Edward, Carlisle states, and I hear my husband sigh. Not right now, perhaps on Monday, at the office. I feel Edward's fingers clasp the fabric of my shirt, and he merely nods in response. As Carlisle excuses himself and walks away, I turn my attention to my husband, watching his head fall back and strain return to his features. Hey, don't worry. Whatever he has to say, we'll get through it. Let him fire me for all I care. I'll find a way to take care of us, he says, his hands flattening against the small of my back. I glide my hand along his neck and into his hand, urging him to look at me. We will find a way. There are two of us in this marriage, and it's a partnership. I doubt he'll fire you, but even if he does, we'll be okay. Edward holds my gaze for several seconds, and then shakes his head with a small laugh. How did I get so lucky? I ask myself that question quite often as well. I answer with a smile and kiss him gently. Edward falls silent again as his forehead rests against mine, his eyes closing before he speaks again. Would you mind if we didn't go out tonight? To be honest, I'm not entirely surprised by this request. I know these therapy sessions were taxing on him even on the best of days, and he'd been particularly tense going into this one with me present, not to mention all that had happened in that room. Edward, you know that date night doesn't necessarily mean going out, nor does it absolutely have to be on Friday if you're not feeling up to it. It's not that, Edward answers quickly, tugging me just a little more firmly against him and capturing my lips in a sweet but passionate kiss. We need to talk, and I prefer to do so in private, not in a restaurant. Edward. The car ride home passes in complete silence, both of us seeming equally nervous about broaching the giant elephant hanging in the air. The topic has never been an easy one for us, and the nerves mounting inside me are not helping matters at all. When I pull to a stop in the driveway and cut the engine, I glance over to Bella, where she's staring at her hands in her lap. I reach over and take her left one, raising it to my lips and kissing where her rings lay. "You want me to go grab some takeout, so you don't have to cook?" Bella shakes her head and finally brings her eyes to meet mine. "I was actually just thinking about throwing one of those pizzas in the oven, since nothing else is thought out. Then neither of us has to go anywhere." I brush her cheek with my finger and lean in to kiss her, thankful that the tension between us at the moment doesn't keep her from responding to it. "That sounds great, to be honest." And just like that, we fall back into silence, and it terrifies me. I never want to return to the awkward living space and quiet meals we used to share, whenever we actually did. So, the lack of conversation all through dinner and carrying over until we were seated side by side on the couch is unnerving. Even with our hands entwined and her head resting on my shoulder, the atmosphere feels tense. Bella is the one to finally break the silence, however. "Edward, if this is about what you said in the session today, I know it was sudden and completely out of the blue. It's not that I never think about it, Bella. There are just some things I'm still very afraid of. I know I'm not my father. I can see that more and more each week I spend in the same room with him in our sessions, but I still feel that fear there," I reply, staring at our joined hands and feeling her head rise from my shoulder, but I keep my eyes lowered. I am inexplicably nervous about talking to my own wife, something I had hoped to be long over by now. "Edward." My name is no more than a whisper on her lips, soft and gentle, and I feel her fingertips touch my jaw, turning my face toward her. "I know. I can't say that I wasn't surprised to hear you talk about the prospect of children so openly, but I also know that it doesn't mean that you're ready right now, especially with everything else you've obviously been considering. It's a lot, just with your job. I never expected you to come home and say you were ready for that. I hope that's not what you're thinking." I tighten my hold on her hand, stopping her abruptly. "I may never be 100% ready, and I think, in the back of my mind, that's what I've been waiting for. You should feel ready before you make a decision like having a child, right? I don't think anyone is ever completely ready for it, even when it's something they really want and even plan for," Bella responds, tilting her head to nuzzle her nose against my neck, and I press my lips to her temple. "Whether we were to start today or 5 years from now, some things are never going to change. I love you, and I believe you will be a wonderful father someday. Even more now, after everything you said today. That is the very definition of what it is to be a good dad, to love your kids and be there for them." I release Bella's hand to bring my arm back and wrap it around her, and she snuggles closer to my side. I do feel more confident that I could possibly be a good father, even if it's slightly terrifying, and I know you would be an exceptional mother. I'm not sure what Monday is going to bring, but even if I have to get some menial job while we figure everything else out, I think I'd like to start trying. Bella becomes suddenly motionless in my arms before sitting up more fully to gaze at me in disbelief. The only further movement she makes for several moments is the slow blinking of her eyes, not even appearing to breathe. I lightly brush the back of my index finger against her cheek, and she inhales sharply, as if she'd honestly forgotten to take a breath in her shock. "But you just said you weren't ready." My fingers rise to toy with the loose tendril of hair hanging down along the side of her face, and I slowly shake my head. "I said I wasn't 100% ready, and as you accurately pointed out, no one ever is. The idea of being responsible for another person is terrifying, but it's also something that's never going to disappear. Isn't every parent scared they are going to make one mistake and ruin their child's life forever?" I pause and give her a small smile, to which she responds with one of her own, and then I feel my heart starting to accelerate. While I was saying all those things to my father today, I came to a realization. That's all I'm afraid of right now. I don't believe I am capable of damaging them as my father did to me. I could never do that to them, but that doesn't mean I'm incapable of making any mistakes at all, possibly even huge ones. Bella's hand comes to cradle my face as my breaths become tight, and her eyes soften, holding so much compassion as she gazes at me that I shiver. "I know, baby. It's okay, just relax." Her voice is soothing, and I begin to focus on my breathing. My anxiety attacks have been becoming fewer and farther between, and I'm getting better at managing them when they do come. Yet, they still manage to creep up on me at times. Once I'm able to draw a full breath into my lungs, I meet her eyes again. I know I'm never going to be the perfect dad, as much as I want to be, but they would always know that I love them. And that's what's been scaring me, that I didn't have the capacity to do that. I was never taught how to be a compassionate and loving father. Bella moves to interrupt me, but I shake my head, silently pleading with her to allow me to finish, and she nods. But I was also never taught how to be a good husband either, or how to treat my wife with all the love and respect she deserves. I know I'm not perfect, but I think I'm managing that aspect better. Bella's smile widens with tears brimming her eyes, and she leans in to give me a gentle but firm kiss. I told you, Edward, even in our worst of times, I've never doubted that you love me. Despite all we've been through, I have a damn good husband, and you're right, that all comes from you, not what you've learned. You are a product of your nature, not your nurture, just as I believed. And I have a damn near perfect wife, I reply with a smile, brushing her lips softly with mine as well. And again, unlike my father, my wife is my partner and best friend. I'm not alone in this, and we make a really good team, and I think that's something that would make us great parents. Bella's arms circle around my neck, and I open my eyes to find tears streaming down her face. I pull her closer to sit across my lap and lean back until she's shifted to snuggle against my chest with her head on my shoulder. I just don't want to rush you. We've still got time. Baby, you've been waiting for more than 8 years. I hardly call that rushing, I reply, ghosting my lips over her hair. And you've waited patiently for more than 6 months now, while I've been working on getting my head together. I thought for so long that I just didn't want kids, but I think it was more that I didn't want them until I could be the father they deserved. And I wasn't sure that I ever would be. Bella draws in a deep breath, and I feel her fingertip making slow circles on my chest, and she swallows hard. And now, you think you are? I cover her hand with mine, lifting it to my lips and kissing her knuckles. The anger at my own father may never completely disappear, but it's no longer consuming my life. There are no more secrets between you and I, and we're stronger than we've ever been. And for the first time, I'm actually able to envision myself as a father, and it does scare me, but it doesn't throw me into an instant panic. So, yeah, I believe I am. The only thing holding me back right now is the uncertainty about Monday. Well, we can at least start making a plan, Bella replied, tilting her face up to brush her lips on my chin before maneuvering herself to straddle my lap, facing me directly. My shot isn't due to expire for another month, so we wouldn't be able to start actively trying right this instant anyway. That will give us time to figure out what's going to happen on Monday and make a financial plan, whatever the outcome. Then, if we are in a position to start, I can get checked over by my doctor and cancel the appointment for the next shot, and we'll go from there. If we need more time, I keep the appointment. Whatever happens, we'll figure everything out together, one step at a time. My hands run up her thighs until they reach her hips, gripping her gently and pulling her closer, and then I locked my arms around her waist. I love you, you know that? Bella's gaze holds mine, and she nods, her face more serene than I've seen in a long time. I really do. And I love you, so damn much. Our lips meet in a gentle kiss, and at her soft whimper, it begins to deepen. I feel her arms circle around my shoulders and lean our bodies to the side, lowering us together until I am above her on the couch, and running her foot along the back of my thigh. I wouldn't say no to a little practicing beforehand, though, she says with a devious smirk and a glint to her eyes that causes me to growl, and she squeals as I rise from the couch, pulling her with me. Her laughter echoes through the house when I heave her over my shoulder and begin making my way toward our bedroom. You animal! When I reach the bed, I toss her down on the mattress and begin to crawl toward her, grazing her inner thigh with my teeth. I even bite a little. Bella. The weekend has passed in a blur, trying to keep Edward from going too far into his head as I've watched dozens of scenarios swirling behind his eyes. Friday was amazing, I can't deny that. Having a conversation about trying for a baby was incredible and a huge step for him, and for us. But it was honestly just the tip of the iceberg. At its core, that night was so much more. On the drive home, I almost expected Edward to completely shut down from me, having so shockingly left himself extremely open and exposed in that room. When he remained very reserved even until after dinner, I swore that was exactly what he had done until he began talking again, and I realized he had simply been processing. While I can't say that our conversation was without its bumps along the way, especially with the sudden spike in his anxiety, he continued talking to me, powering through his fears and trusting me. That is more important than any topic of conversation or decision we make. We are in this marriage together. I've seen how worried he's been throughout the weekend, even showing signs of self-doubt, wondering if he should have kept it all to himself when it came to that particular topic. I woke at 2 o'clock Saturday morning to Edward's hold tightening around me, and when I opened my eyes and glanced behind me, I saw his forehead beaded with sweat. His muscles were tense in his arms, and his breaths were irregular, not one of his full-blown panic attacks, but I could see it wasn't far off. With considerable effort, I turned in his hold so I could face him and rested my palm on his cheek. He was having a nightmare. His fingers grabbed her on my wrist tightly, but he wasn't waking up. "Edward, baby, it's just a dream. Open your eyes. You're okay?" After a few ragged breaths, he finally gasped and his eyes opened, but it still took him a moment before his focus could settle on me. He pulled me securely against him once he did, and his forehead met mine. "I can't do it, Bella. I just can't." I had been waiting for that, to be honest. Everything came on so suddenly, and I had a feeling that once he had a chance to think about it, he'd realize that he needed a slower pace, and that was fine. "Relax. It's all right. I'm not going anywhere." I can't face him." Edward's breaths began accelerating again, and he grasped the satin of my nightgown in his fists. "I can't take care of you and the baby, all my responsibilities. It's impossible. Need my job." I ran my fingers through his hair and down the back of his neck, trying to soothe him. Though I was speaking to him, he wasn't as aware and responsive as he would be if he was fully awake. Even with his eyes wide open, he was still stuck in the nightmare. "We'll be okay, Edward. Everything will be okay." Slowly, his grip began to loosen, the trembling of his body gradually dissipated, and he fell back into a quiet slumber. Me, not so much. As much as I want to have a child and start a family with Edward, I can't bear to see him so riddled with anxiety over it either. When I tried talking to him on Saturday morning, he immediately began apologizing for waking me up and worrying me. I'm trying not to stress too much over Monday, and I know it doesn't lay entirely on my shoulders to take care of us, or whatever family we might have together. But this is who I am, Bella, and I don't think that is ever going to change, he said, sadness filling his eyes. I gently grabbed the front of his t-shirt at his abdomen, tugging him toward the stool I was seated on until he stood between my legs. I don't expect it to ever completely change, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to make sure your family is provided for, whether it's just me and you, or a baby as well. Just try not to let it consume you, okay? No matter what, we will figure it all out together and be fine. That seemed to ease him moderately for the remainder of the weekend, but Monday has now come upon us, and the anxiety has risen in him again. "Do you need me to drive you in?" I ask from my seat on the bed, where I'm pulling on my stockings as I get ready for work. Edward stands at the bathroom mirror, fixing his tie for the third time in about as many minutes, and shakes his head as his eyes meet mine in a reflection. "No, I have to do this on my own, Bella." "Okay," I reply, standing to make my way over to him while he folds the collar of his shirt down. My arms slide around his waist from behind and I hug myself to his back as I press a kiss to his shoulder. "Don't worry, I haven't put my lipstick on yet." Edward rolls his eyes, but his smile conveys his appreciation for my attempt in easing his tension, even if only briefly. Funny. My palms flatten against his chest, and his left hand rises to cover both of mine, and I allow us to stand in that serenity for a moment before speaking again. "I love you, and I'm just a phone call or text away if you need me, okay?" "I know, and I've got Jane's number programmed in as well," he responds and then turns around to face me, pressing a gentle kiss to my lips. "I love you too. I should go before I'm late." Throughout the morning, I am about as nervous as I'm sure Edward is. Every couple of minutes, I check my phone for any kind of message from him, but noon eventually rolls around and there is still nothing. Either everything is going well, or more likely, has gone really bad, and that worries me. He said he would text or call. Why hasn't he? Did he opt to contact Jane instead? That's fine, just as long as he does something aside from panicking and shutting down. I will definitely go to that office myself and give Carlisle Cullen a piece of my "I'm here to see Isabella Cullen," I hear from the front desk, and my head shoots up. spotting my husband speaking to our receptionist Lauren. Edward has never come to the office to see me, but he doesn't seem to be tense at all. In fact, he appears quite relaxed. That is, of course, until Lauren props herself forward on her desk, giving him a clear view of her ample cleavage. And who should I say is asking? Just as I am about to stand up and make my way over there to shove her away from him, Edward braces his hands on the edge of the desk and leans toward her. Her husband, Edward Cullen. Now, if you would please let her know that I am here, it would be greatly appreciated. I have to fight a little to restrain my laughter as she flusters under his intense glare, sinking back into her chair and then rolling back with an "of course sir," not to mention the pride I feel at the way he stood up and put her in her place, and if I am completely honest, I'm a little turned on as well. Lauren at least has the decency to look embarrassed as she approaches my desk, where I am looking right at her with a raised eyebrow, so she knows I heard the whole thing. "Miss Cullen, your husband is here to see you." I stand, pushing my chair in toward my desk. "That's Mrs. Cullen, and thank you, Lauren." Edward's smile is a welcome sight as I make my way toward him, and he leans in to kiss my cheek. "Mrs. Cullen." I respond with a grin of my own, standing as close to him as is appropriate in the current environment. "Mr. Cullen, to what do I owe this pleasure? I was wondering if you were free for lunch and would care to join me," he continues in a very formal tone, though I can see the amusement still present in his eyes. That is an encouraging sign. As a matter of fact, I just so happen to be entirely free for lunch. I make the attempt at responding in an equally formal tone, but my bubbling emotions will not allow my smile to be restrained. "Just give me 2 seconds, okay?" Edward nods as I lean in to gently kiss his cheek and then quickly hurry back to my desk to grab my purse and phone and clock out for lunch. When I return to him, I find his hand outstretched, and when I slip mine into it, he bends his arm to hold it to his chest. I curl into his side, pressing an inconspicuous kiss to his bicep, and we finally make our way out to his car. Once seated within, I immediately reach over to pull his lips to mine, kissing him urgently. "God, you scared me." Edward draws back and looks at me questioningly. "I'm sorry, I didn't think meeting you for lunch would be so startling." "Shut up," I respond with a laugh, swatting lightly at his forearm, as he clasps my face between his hands and kisses me again. "You know what I mean. You didn't call or text, send smoke signals, nothing. I was worried about you." "I do apologize for that, baby. I only just got out of the meeting with my father, and I wanted to make sure I got here in time for your lunch. I was anxious to see you." I gaze at him, trying to read him for any hint of strain or anxiety, and surprisingly, can't find so much as a glimmer of stress in his eyes. "So, what happened? Let's get some lunch first, okay?" Edward says, and I groan with impatience. He reaches over to give my knee a gentle squeeze once he starts the engine, and I glance over to him again. "I promise, I will tell you everything. I just want to be seated with no distractions, like driving." Why doesn't that make me feel any better? I muse internally but keep my thoughts to myself, so we can get where we're going more quickly and allow Edward to put his focus where it needs to be. I am quite literally chomping at the bit by the time we are seated at the restaurant with coffee set in front of us, however. "Now will you tell me what happened?" Edward's eyes rise from where he is pouring the cream into the mug and then lower again as he starts to stir. "He had a proposition for me." I sigh, already not liking the direction this is going. "Of course, he did. So, how will he benefit from it?" Bella, Edward whispers, setting his hand on the table between us, palm up, and I slowly place mine in it. "We both benefit from it. Just hear me out." I nod, casting my eyes down, automatically bristling from the start. "Is not going to help anyone, least of all Edward." "Sorry. Go ahead." Leaving the company abruptly would be unreasonable all around. There is no one else trained to do every aspect of my job at this time, so that would leave the company in a bit of a bind. Then, our income would be cut by more than half without my salary coming in. He pauses as I draw in a breath to interrupt, shaking his head and giving my hand a gentle squeeze to stop me. "I know we have savings, and that we could manage on one income for a while, but if it isn't necessary, I really don't want to. And as much as I may not thoroughly enjoy my job, I'm good at it, and I would go absolutely out of my mind with boredom if I was unemployed right now." I definitely can't argue with him there. Even a week's vacation in the past has had Edward's fingers twitching for his laptop, and he'd usually only last a day or two before forfeiting his vacation time altogether and returning to work. "Okay, so what was the proposition?" He releases my hand long enough to quickly browse the menu, and we both place our order with the server, who had approached as I spoke. Once we both finish and he leaves, Edward returns his gaze to me. The only thing I am completely certain about is that I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life, no matter how comfortable of a life it might provide for us. But what I do want, I haven't figured out yet. So, until I do, I keep my position. I'm not sure what I had been hoping for, to be honest, but I can't deny that I feel my heart sink a little. So, essentially, nothing changes right now. I didn't say that, Edward replies, and I meet his gaze curiously. I will be working a standard 40 hours a week. No more late nights at the office or bringing it home and working into the wee hours of the morning. I made it clear that my time at home is to be spent with my wife, not my laptop. I grip his hand a little more firmly, and I can't help the tears accompanying my happiness at his words. This is amazing, Edward, as long as you're happy with these terms. Edward draws in a deep breath and lets it out with an easy smile, and he nods. I am. I don't feel like the whole weight of the world is on my shoulders anymore, and I actually have some control over my own life. I don't have to sacrifice everything that's important to me in order to meet such unrealistic demand, and I have time to figure out what I want. And when you do become pregnant, I don't have to choose between either missing everything or worrying about how we'll manage financially. I stare at him wordlessly as the server returns with our salads, and I'm still barely breathing when he departs again, and Edward gazes at me in concern. His eyebrows rise in expectation, and I finally shake myself out of it to respond. Sorry, it's still just a little strange to hear you mention me becoming pregnant without choking on the words, or just being so calm about it in general. I don't mean to be, but I know, old habits die hard, Edward replies a little sadly as he takes the first bite of his salad. He's quiet for a moment as he chews, and then his eyes meet mine again. But I haven't changed my mind, Bella. I would like to have a child with you, even if it's a little scary. It's scary for anyone, I remark, gazing at him for a moment before wiping my mouth with the napkin and setting it aside. I think we should get our lunch to go. I need something at home before I go back to work. What he started with confusion creasing his brow, which suddenly dissipates the moment I start gliding my foot along his leg underneath the table. Really? When was the last time we had a lunchtime quickie? I whisper with a wicked grin, and Edward instantly starts to flag down the server. Check please. Edward, as with every other journey Bella and I have taken together, the road over the last year has not been a simple one. Bella becoming pregnant was the easy part. 2 weeks after I had that meeting with my father, she made an appointment with her gynecologist to be checked out before coming off the shot, and actively trying for a baby. The doctor gave her a clean bill of health, seeing absolutely no reason why we wouldn't be able to conceive within 6 months' time. As we sat there talking that night, irrational fear began gripping me, and not in the form that either of us expected. I hadn't changed my mind about to have a baby with her, nor had I suddenly become more terrified of being a father. Bella was fine, but what if I wasn't? What if after all that time she'd been waiting, there was something wrong with me, and I couldn't give her a baby? Though I hadn't paid it much mind at the time, I had watched one of the women in our office go through the struggles of infertility. I'd unwillingly overheard her talking to one of the other employees when she found out that it was because her husband had a low sperm count or something, even though there was nothing wrong with her. I got an image of my mind of that being Bella telling one of her colleagues that very thing, with the same sad expression on her face. Then would she end up resenting me? Would it destroy the relationship we had worked so hard to build and strengthen together? Bella tried comforting me as much as she could, assuring me that nothing would change even if that did happen, which she thought was highly unlikely. And in any event, it wasn't something we needed to contemplate for at least a year, let alone before we even started trying. All that worrying turned out to be for nothing, since it was just over 3 months later that the second line appeared in that window. It had begun. Bella was pregnant with our child. I tried to find an even balance in my life between work, home, making sure our child would have everything he or she would ever need, as well as trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do with my life. I definitely did not want to be a workaholic father that my child would only know as a figurehead in our household, but I also couldn't bear the thought of my son or daughter seeing me as a weak, indecisive man, unhappy with his job but doing nothing about it. I wanted to be someone my kids could look up to and be proud of, an example for them, not a warning of everything not to do with your life. But what was it that I actually wanted to do with mine? I had no idea, and the fact that I was about to become a father without the slightest clue scared the shit out of me. By the time Bella was almost at the end of her second trimester, and we learned that we were going to be welcoming a bouncing baby girl into our lives in a few months, I was no closer to figuring it out. My wife never pressured me, and obviously, neither did my father, since my indecision benefited him tremendously. But I was becoming frustrated. Edward, it's not like you have a time limit. You could figure it out today or 10 years from now, as long as you eventually find what will make you happy, Bella said one night as we lay in bed together, her back to my chest and our hands caressing her quite pronounced baby bump. I may not have found a career I wanted to pursue, but as we prepared for the arrival of our little girl, I did discover something I enjoyed. I was also surprisingly good at it, even though I had never done anything of the sort before in my life, not even in high school woodworking. I have no clue what prompted the idea to cross my mind in the first place, but one Saturday morning as Bella slept in, I began Googling how to build baby furniture. I wanted to contribute something to our family other than money, since my wife was doing all the hard work of carrying her, complete with aching back and swollen ankles, in addition to still going to work every day. What was I doing, aside from helping with simple things around the house, going with her to doctor's appointments as often as I could, and massaging her feet and shoulders at night? She insisted that I was doing plenty, and more than most husbands, but I didn't feel that. I figured I would start with something small and simple, a small table to sit beside her rocking chair in the nursery. Not only did I enjoy the process of building and creating something functional, I also found that my anxiety was far more manageable when I had that kind of an outlet, and as an added bonus, Bella absolutely loved it. So, after a discussion with my wife, I decided to enroll in a basic woodworking course to learn more. Within that 8-week period, I came to a conclusion that I was not sure Bella would be entirely pleased with, and that alone made me a little nervous. I was watching her grow more with our child, and I was happy with my life as it was in that moment. My job wasn't the problem, as boring and tedious as it had become over the years. What I had needed was a challenge and an outlet for myself, not necessarily a new career. I didn't want to quit my job or really do anything else. Building up the courage to tell Bella that was quite difficult for me. Would she be disappointed in me, after she'd been so supportive and proud through it all? And what about my daughter? I wanted to be her hero, as most fathers do. Would I be? When my course came to a close, even at more than 8 months pregnant, Bella decided to surprise me with a romantic celebratory dinner. I hadn't been expecting that, and had planned to come home that day, present her with the jewelry box I'd made for her as my project in class, and talk to her about it all. I wasn't going to ruin the special night she had arranged, though. Unfortunately, in that instance anyway, my wife saw right through me and read me like a book. As hard as I tried to hide it, she knew something was weighing heavily on me. I, on the other hand, had difficulty deciphering Bella's reaction when I finally told her. She sat there, silently observing me, with only a contemplative expression on her face. "Bella, please say something," I finally said, my chest beginning to tighten. Bella took a deep breath and then reached her hand across the table for mine, gazing at where they were joined for a moment before meeting my eyes. "Is this your decision?" I knew what she was really saying then. Did I come to this conclusion on my own, or did my father have any influence on it? I understood her concern. I knew it could be so easy to fall back into old habits and patterns like that, especially with a new baby to provide for soon. I gave her hand a gentle squeeze and nodded. "Yes, this is entirely my decision." Bella nodded slowly, appearing deep in thought for several moments, and I thought I even saw the hint of tears in her eyes. That was exactly what I had been afraid of. I never wanted to be the cause of her pain like that ever again. "Bella, I'm sorry, I don't need to." "Edward, stop," she said firmly, her gaze locked with mine again. "Don't apologize for or backtrack on any decision you make. When it comes to this, only you can decide what is right for you, and I am fine with it as long as you promise me that you never let it consume your whole life again, and you don't fall into your father's trap." I lifted her hand to my lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. I knew she really didn't trust my father at all, and far be it for me to blame her. Neither did I promise. I want to be parent for my daughter, not just the man that helped create her. And you will never be second to anything ever again, well, except her. Bella's lips trembled a little with her smile, as my gaze dropped to her belly, and then returned to hers. "As long as you're happy with it and our family still comes first for us both, that's all I want." 8 years later. I have kept that promise I made to her even after our daughter, Ryan, was joined 3 years later by her brother Gabe. I still have the same job, but rarely have I ever put in as much as an hour of overtime. I've been home nearly every night for dinner, and weekends are devoted to my wife and children. Being a father may not be easy, but I have found that it truly is the hardest job you'll ever love, as I've heard in the past, and it's also been the most rewarding experience of my life as well. Watching them grow and develop their personalities has been remarkable. How absolutely opposite they are is astounding. Ryan is our loud one and almost the spitting image of her mother, except for her head of curly red hair and bright green eyes. There is not a shy bone in her body, and she's so smart, it's both terrifying and amazing. She's become my little helper on the weekends in the workshop I now have in the garage, always anxious to learn something new and create things with her hands. Even at 2 years old, long before I felt it was safe enough for her to actively participate in any way, she was my constant companion out there, just observing and asking questions, albeit simple ones at that age, such as "What's that, Daddy?" about various tools and such as I built a new crib and changing table while Bella was pregnant with Gabe. Our son, on the other hand, is quite the opposite, and reminds me so much of myself when I was a child. The only difference is Bella's big brown eyes staring back at me from that little face. He's very quiet and reserved, and was even as a baby and toddler, but extremely affectionate as well, for which I am glad. At least that much he's inherited from his mother's personality. He's the one that's the most content sitting in a corner playing quietly or curled up on the couch with one of us watching a movie, or collecting bugs, which really creeps Bella out when he brings them in to proudly show her, though to her credit she tries not to squirm much in front of him. I'm the luckiest man in the world, and I am determined to never take any of it for granted. I have had the love of an amazing woman for nearly 20 years, and now have 2 beautiful and remarkable children, who currently have me pinned beneath them on the grass in our backyard in a game of tag. And I am happier than I ever could have imagined even a decade ago. I thank whatever higher power there may be that Bella is the incredible and patient woman that she is, and that she never truly gave up on me. I don't even want to contemplate what my life would have been like if she'd actually left me, and I was still stuck in that rut I was in back then, working myself to death with nothing to show for it but a loaded bank account and an empty house, still shut down from the world, lonely and miserable, watching my life pass by and never truly living. No marriage is perfect, and we still have our arguments from time to time, obviously, but we never tear each other apart in screaming matches anymore. We are happy, and that is reflected in the smiling faces gazing down at me right now. "I'm hungry, Daddy," Gabe, now 5 years old, comments as he lays across his sister's back, pinning her against my chest. "Sorry, you're out of luck. I've been tackled by 2 little monsters, who won't let me up," I reply, throwing my arms dramatically onto the grass above my head, and I was met with a chorus of "Dad." I wait for a moment as they bounce impatiently on my chest, then sit up with a growl, as my arms now wrap securely around them, both causing them to giggle uncontrollably. That and the soft chuckle I hear from my wife a few feet away are the most beautiful sounds in the world to me. My family is happy and healthy, and my children love me unconditionally without an ounce of fear. I'm a good dad, just as Bella assured me that I would be. And I'm not even the tiniest bit afraid of the third and final addition to our family joining us in 3 short months. The end.